It is 6 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Friday, September 13th. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show on 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, and center. It's a beautiful day in the greatest country in history, and we're gearing up for a whole nother hour of engaging discussions, critical analysis, and most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab your coffee, Denver, and let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. You can text the show at 720-819-5115. 720-819-5115. Coming up after news and comment with Blake Olson, Justin Falk is going to join us, the director of the film Am I Racist? He's a Coloradan. He's going to join us live in studio. Great new film by Matt Walsh coming out. Not going to want to miss that discussion. George Brauchler in the 8 o'clock hour on this DA that got disbarred. It's like the first time in Colorado history I think crazy. This has happened. Was it warranted? This has to do with the case down in near Buena Vista, Salida.
Yeah.
Morpheus, that's the name. She was trained.
Yeah. It was crazy. And how bad the prosecution was and how bad the DA went. And yeah, it was awful. It's all that idea of someone that had come to a conclusion beforehand, and then the way that, she went after him. Okay. But again, good that she got disbarred, and again, a DA getting disbarred. This is huge. This is ridiculous.
So Brauchler is going to give us some insight on that, and then some poetry from Jeff Hildebrandt, and lots of news to cover. Lopez going down to the floor of the House of Representatives and dropping some bombs. Holy cow. Fire speech on Aurora. Dude, this dude does not hold back. You're not going to want to miss that speech. And then another wolf death. Marlon.
Yeah.
Someone check on Marlon today. The first gentleman really taking these wolf deaths hard. So lots of news to cover. You're not going to want to miss it. Stick with us throughout the entirety of the show. Let's check in on news and comment with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
TGIF, Jeff and Billy.
Friday, buddy.
Yes, love it. We made it. It was just like a snap of a finger, and here we are. 56 and sunny in Denver, expecting a high of 83 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story, Boulder police received a call last night about several hit-and-run crashes involving the same pickup near Foothills Parkway and Arapahoe Avenue. Witnesses reported that a man driving a blue pickup truck was involved in at least 2 hit-and-run crashes before hitting several trees and signs. Officers tried to stop the driver, but he got away before ramming the gate to drive onto Folsom Field at the University of Colorado, where the visiting team runs onto the field. After negotiating with police, Carl Haglund got out of his truck and surrendered to police. He faces numerous charges, including criminal attempt vehicular assault and reckless endangerment. It looks like he stalled at about the 40-yard line. Charges are pending following a deadly shooting and standoff in Broomfield. Authorities say officers were called out on Thursday morning to the Arista Flats apartments for a disturbance. A man inside the apartment began shooting at officers into other apartments and the parking lot. A woman who was inside the apartment with the suspect was pronounced dead from a gunshot wound. The man was shot by officers before being arrested. He was taken to a local hospital with serious injuries. Lake County District schools remain closed through Sunday due to a report of a threat. Authorities say Dominic Gallegos made threats toward the Lake County High School earlier this week. Gallegos turned himself into the Lake County Jail Thursday and was questioned. He was released on bond for a separate criminal warrant. The threat remains under investigation. City officials in Springfield, Ohio, speaking out following a bomb threat that led to the evacuation of City Hall. Springfield city manager says that it's disappointing that the narrative surrounding our city has been skewed by misinformation circulating on social media and further amplified by political rhetoric. So you remember the city manager, they brought him up in the debate. However, there are huge issues in this town of 58,000 where 20,000 Haitians were placed. Mark Sanders also represents local government.
There's a lot of vicious rumors floating around. I will tell you that our geese, our duck population is nearly decimated in our 2 parks. What we are is a city that only wants our safety, security, and sovereignty back. We've had total upheaval because of it. Our food pantries, they get stripped. Our clinics, which is Rocking Horse, is a federally funded clinic in town. Their budget was decimated. Our emergency rooms are overrun. Our roads are it's like Escape from New York, and everybody feels like Snake Plissken. You don't know if you're going to get from point A to point B without getting run over, run into, or have a SUV flip over in front of you. The bad driving is multinational. I don't want to sound like it's only one group that's doing it, but I think that they're the most that's happening. I mean, they have between 4 and 6 wrecks a day, and probably over 50% of those are people without licenses, without insurance, and have no English skills.
So there's no evidence or proof of the eating of the dogs and cats. However, there was a call into the police, and there's plenty of rumors about it. And yes, the dogs.
They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. Eat the cat. Eat the cat.
Yeah, here we go. Pump it up. Eating the dogs and cats. TGIF. Come on, man. Anything, Jeff?
No.
Hey, let me tell you something. I went to college with a guy from Haiti. He ran track, and he definitely said to eat the dogs and the cats. Okay. All right. Now, hey, things could have changed from 40 years ago or 35 years ago. So, all right. Former President Trump says polls are declaring him the winner of Tuesday's debate against Kamala Khan. Trump said he will not debate Harris again. He said Harris should focus on her job as vice president instead of wanting another debate.
The first words out of that fighter's mouth is, I want a rematch. I want a rematch.
After a
and
fighter
that's what she
loses.
said. I want a rematch, which means that she was like a prize fighter that lost a fight. We had 2 debates, though. I had a debate with crooked Joe Biden, right? And I had another debate with her. She was a no-show at the Fox debate. You know, Fox invited her. She was a no-show. She didn't show up. And refused also to do NBC and CBS. She went over to ABC, which in my opinion has taken a big hit because these 2 people were bad news. So because we've done 2 debates and because they were successful, there will be no 3rd debate.
All right. And the Secret Service is an absolute garbage mess. We'll have more on that coming up next hour. College football tomorrow, one of the big games, of course, CU at CSU in Fort Collins. News brought to you by Laureate Fireplace and Patio, Denver's premier source for everything fireplace and grills, locally owned and operated since 1954, online at LaureateFireplacePatio.com. 55 in Northglenn, 54 in Glendale, 56 in Denver. I need the dogs and cats. Where is it, Billy? Give me the dogs and cats. Do you have it?
They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. Eat the cat. Eat the cat. They're eating the dogs.
Yeah.
Eating the cats.
Jeff and Bill continue. TGIF. Blake Olson, News Talk 710. KNUS.
KNUS forecast for the Denver metro area is a milder one today thanks to a cold front that pushed through the area overnight. A weak frontal system, highs today, closer to average, low to mid 80s. Sunny to mostly sunny. It'll be cool tonight, low 50s. Trending warmer for the weekend and early next week. High temperatures back to the upper 80s to near 90 degrees, lows mid 50s. A couple of showers and thunderstorms.
Weather sponsored by branchplanning.com. Secure your future retirement with a reliable income stream. Annuities can provide guaranteed
guaranteed payments, giving you peace of mind. Get your complimentary review at branchplanning.com or call 303-219-0088. I'm meteorologist Mark Huer in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
The American political scene, Bill. I'm sitting here going, this has become, this is the anthem of this year's political scene.
Yes.
They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. Eat the cat. Eat the cat. They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cat.
That's so funny. That is too funny.
So, originally created to mock Donald Trump, I think on TikTok, it's now become ultra viral, and people are posting images of their pets and little Donald Trump chains around their pets and stuff.
It's very funny. It's really cute. And the dancing they have everybody doing inside the video is also very cool. So, yeah, it's fun. Yeah, it's very fun.
So, Greg Lopez wanders down to the floor of the House of Representatives yesterday, I believe, and drops some bombs. Holy cow, listen to this.
Today, a knock at the door will make the blood of families run cold. Today, armed prison gang members patrol the perimeter of an American community with their fingers on the trigger, waiting to dish out death and dread. Today, inhabitants will endure with gritted teeth, unable to ask for help, for fear of reprisal, longing for a setting sun to cast shadows that will hide the brazen faces of foreign invaders. Mr. Speaker, an outpost of hell has sprung up in the suburbs of Denver. Vicious thugs have descended on Aurora like a plague or a cancer. The government doesn't care. The police can't be found. The governor says it's all in their heads. Tren de Aragua, a transnational criminal gang started in Venezuela prison, has invaded multiple apartment communities with all the ferocity of wild dogs. TDA extorts residents, intimidates witnesses, and has received clearance from their leadership to shoot cops. The Biden-Harris administration encourages this with a senseless border policy that refuses to prioritize America's safety. Will TDA be the first virus not to spread, the first cancer not to metastasize? If we don't wake up, the next knock on the door will be for us. Thank you, and I yield back.
Woo!
Yeah.
Wild dogs, virus, cancer, an outpost of hell. George Lopez. Greg Lopez. Wow.
Yeah.
Some heat.
Yeah, that was very aggressive. But to the point.
That was directly to the point. He's taking advantage of those 1 minutes that you get down on the floor of the House of Representatives. I texted with him, and he said, look, until these guys are deported, till TDA is deported, this is going to continue to be in the news. That's a good question. You know, what is the process? The city of Aurora took, you saw those mugshots, about 10 of those guys
and what
directly connected to TDA. What are they going to do, and how do they get rid of them? If you remember yesterday, Heidi Goodall was on the show.
Yes, she was.
And I said there's a formula for how Kyle Clark and Channel 9 report these issues.
All right, walk us through it.
So formula number 1, try to make Republicans look as extremist as possible. Don't talk about the issue. We have TDA gangs. Aurora has admitted that. Danielle Jurinsky was right about all that. The formula is make Republicans look as crazy as possible, okay? And particularly if it's a conservative woman, then we're really good. Guess what the news story was yesterday?
What was it? Do tell.
Dude, it's like now I can just predict their moves. We should go play a football game and we'll win every
yeah,
time.
exactly.
We know their plays. We figured it out.
Yeah, what'd they do?
Kyle Clark. New fringe site InfoWars and Aurora councilwoman Danielle Jurinsky called a nonprofit communist without evidence after it challenged her gang claims. That was it. That's the news story.
That's it.
That's the news story.
The news story is she called a nonprofit commune. Okay. Yeah. Again, that's a little bit of a reach as far as that being a news story. I mean, again, what is the news values are this. And this is what you're taught in basic journalism school. It's impact, timeliness, proximity, greatest interest to greatest number of people is basically what you're looking at.
And if it bleeds, it leads.
Yeah, which is the idea of impact. So the idea of the impact is there, and then you're looking at timeliness. How recent had this happened? Proximity, how close is the story to where your audience is at the time, and the greatest interest to the greatest number of people. And that's where, okay, impact, what's the impact here? I understand timeliness and proximity, but greatest interest to greatest number of people. What I'm curious about is why the news editor, or Kyle Clark, or whoever it is, the producer of the show, decided that was of greatest interest to the greatest number of people on their audience, which I can see if they are trying to run a narrative. If they're trying to push a specific point of view, this makes a heck of a lot of sense for greatest interest to greatest number of people. But if you're doing it based on news values, the fact that she said that is minor at best. At best, given everything that is going on. So, okay, fine. But again, it's a good insight into their news values and how they stack the news, what they're looking for.
We figured it out.
Absolutely.
Prove me wrong, Kyle.
Yeah.
Prove me wrong.
Yeah.
I think we've outreached to him to
maybe, if not,
join us on the show.
If not, he knows how to, he knows how to find us. We're not shy.
There's an X account.
Yeah, so
There's
we're not
an X
shy.
account you can reach us at.
We are super easy, and there's a public phone number. Oddly, when Kyle's on the air, no one gets to call and talk to him about what he's doing. We got a phone number right here.
Great point.
He is free to call at any point in time as well if he felt the need. So, yeah, we are open and we're talking to the audience in a way that he doesn't. We communicate and we are held accountable by the audience in a way he never is.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
We run this thing without a net. Yeah. So that's what it happens, man.
So have we figured it out? We figured out the formula that Channel 9 employs upon its viewers every single day. Take a conservative, Republican, tie them and make them look as extreme as possible. In this case, fringe site InfoWars, and Aurora City Councilwoman Danielle Jurinsky called a nonprofit communist.
I know. And the idea is why are you rolling InfoWars in there? The idea being that I'm sorry, I don't view InfoWars as credible. And for me, and what I'm hearing in what Kyle Clark is doing is he is trying to label Jurinsky as someone that is a fan of InfoWars or lumping them together, because I mean, InfoWars is just simply not a credible news site. But the fact that he says InfoWars and Danielle Jurinsky, why does it matter that InfoWars called this nonprofit communist? Why would that matter at all? It doesn't. But it allows Kyle to label her. That's why it's included. There's no reason to include that in the story in any way, shape, or form. But it allows him to label her as a kook. That's what he's doing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, and she didn't tweet about it. She didn't link to the articles or anything like that. So that's the scheme. That's the plan. Yep. So when you see this stuff and then this bizarre, really bizarre fixation on Republican women.
So, really weird.
Danielle Jurinsky, Heidi Ganahl, Lauren Boebert, KBB, Jenna Ellis, all that stuff.
I think I have an insight on that one. And again, I can be totally wrong.
Yeah.
And I'm not convinced, nor am I going to say that it is Kyle Clark's personal view. I can't say that in any way, shape, or form, but I think that the newsroom's view, based on the stories that we see coming out of the newsroom as a whole and 9 News. 9 News. That was great. Nice job there, Bill. 9 News. That's wonderful.
9 News.
Good job.
You put Kyle Clark in a vision I will get out of my head for the rest of the day.
Just imagine him in a really short cheetah print bathrobe that goes about thigh high. Some soft music, some candles. No, I'm kidding. Okay, now, this is embarrassing. Okay, so in 9 News, what are we looking at as far as their newsroom? I have a feeling, this is only my opinion, that they are confused as to why a woman would be a conservative. Because based on their worldview, they don't see any reason that a woman would ascribe to conservative beliefs, especially looking at things like abortion and a few other things based on childcare and teachers unions and schools. And so they see the Republican Party in some ways very anti-woman. So that's why I believe, it's just my feelings. I feel that the 9 News newsroom has this filter. They don't understand why any woman would be a conservative. They can't wrap their head around it. So when any conservative woman does anything at all that can be newsworthy, they're going to highlight it simply because they view that as an anomaly. Remember, 9 News doesn't stand out at DIA and report that all the planes landed safely. They show you the unusual. That's the filter of the news. The news shows you things that don't normally happen or things that are shocking or things that are unusual. So that's what they're doing. They find conservative women to be so unusual. It's like discovering a leprechaun in the wild. And so that's what they're going to do. They're going to report on it that way. And again, I'm not saying that as Kyle Clark's worldview. I can't say that. But I think that we can make that assumption based on the stories that come out as a whole.
Bizarre fixation.
Yeah, as a whole that come out of the newsroom. Yes, as a whole. That's what I think happens, is that there is this filter. They don't understand why these conservative women can exist. They don't get it.
Bill, I think you're exactly right.
Hey, well, I got to go home now because that's the only time I'm allowed to be right on the show. I'm allowed one a day.
You got it done once today.
Yep, that's it. That's all the time I'm allowed to be right. I got to go home now.
So is Greg Lopez right that it's going to take the deportation of these TDA criminals out of Aurora, out of this country, for this Aurora story to finally settle down? What do you think? Give us a call, 303-696-1971. Text us at 720-819-5115. For many of us, it's happening. Your hair is thinning. Your crown is disappearing. Maybe hair loss has you feeling your identity is lost altogether. Well, I've got good news. It's an incredible yet simple one-day treatment that starts growing your own natural hair the very next day. And it's guaranteed to grow for life. It's the Advanced FUE from Advanced Hair. We've all seen the pills and lotions that come with monthly subscriptions. They help retain what you have. But what if what you want is your own natural hair permanently in specific areas? From Advanced Hair's state-of-the-art facilities to world-class Dr. Tanya Pauls, it's not maybe will your hair regrow. It's guaranteed that your new hair will grow. You decide how much, how thick, and where. It's why Advanced Hair is the winner of Westward's Best of Denver. For your free consultation, $250 off and 250 free hair grafts. Call 720-459-HAIR. That's 720-459-HAIR or advancedhair.com. Advancedhair.com. We'll continue with your calls and texts. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Beer boils on tomorrow. That's always good for your Saturday.
Yeah.
And then Caldera as well. So it's a good,
fun
good
way to start
Saturday.
off the day.
I wonder, yesterday might have been the last day we hit the 90s in this state.
Oh, that would be nice. I know you're a heat guy and I'm not. So that would be nice for me. It's
90s is a little much. It's a little much.
It's a touch much, a little hot. Yeah, it's great to start off the Saturday with Caldera and also with boils because you know what the other stations are doing. They're selling you the magic pills and they're just telling you all the stuff that's these things, and then they give you this. You have the people that are paying for the time, and it's just not. It's hard for me to say that at times it's real radio, but we're doing it right on Saturday through about 1 o'clock on Saturday afternoon, and then we switch to some national programming that's satellite, and it's not what some of those other stations do. Yeah. And they've even changed.
We keep
what
it
they
local,
do. Yeah,
baby. We
do.
keep it local.
We do, and talk about the things you're interested in.
Speaking of local, I've got a new shirt that I think we're going to pass out to any Republican woman running for office in Colorado.
Yeah? What is that?
I just designed it. Just threw it up on X too.
Yeah.
It reads, "I'm a conservative woman. Stop obsessing, Kyle Clark."
That is really good. That is really good. We had a call off the air. Chuck called in, and he said that he thinks that they should design T-shirts, the Trump campaign, with some Haitian immigrants or TDA gang members on there, and says, "We're not going back." I was like, that's clever. That's pretty clever, especially if you use the TDA gang, guys. That could be really use mugshots or something. We're not going back. I think that's really good. Also,
that is good.
Chuck suggested that one of the things that Trump should do strategically is then go to Springfield and do a rally there and see how it turns out.
Yeah,
that's interesting. That would be very interesting. That would be a good way to do it. Yeah, it's a good idea. I like your T-shirt though. We should print those. Those would be fun.
This will make it. This will get retweeted.
Yeah, and we could do that. We could do that.
Man, the amount of pent up frustration towards Channel 9 on X is crazy.
Yeah,
like I tweet about a lot of stuff. Right?
Oh, yeah, you do.
Life, Kamala Harris. I tweet about Kyle Clark and Channel 9, and it is the biggest engagement.
Well, here's the thing: is I believe that there are a lot of people. Now, again, Channel 9 is the biggest dog in local TV news and has been for a while. But I think there's a lot of pent-up frustration from viewers like yourself and to a lesser extent myself, because we understood where 9 News was and how they climbed the mountain. And once they got in that dominant position, in my opinion, they seem to lose the idea and the sight of journalism and news values.
Exactly.
That it became more about, now that we are the biggest one, we can move into advocacy journalism. And now that we are the biggest one, we can change the direction of where we're going. Peter Boyles talked about it, that he had a friend on the inside and said that he knows for a fact his friend was in a meeting in which, and this is not the best way to put it, but it was outlined that the news department and the Channel 9, their local broadcasting, was going to take a different direction. And it was, quote, mommy news. And again, I don't know if that phrase was uttered inside the meeting or anything else, but that's how it was described to Peter. And so they were going to focus on mommy news. They were going to be that friend of the stay-at-home moms or moms that were running around and do that. And so that's why you see some of the focus they have. And also that could be why they look at it and think that the conservative women are so unusual, because that's not their audience. But that also leads to the pent-up frustration, because the rest of the audience that remembers what 9 News was and their journalism ethics disagree with where they're going. They also aren't the target for mommy news. And so they're frustrated with this beloved icon of local news changing into something that they don't recognize, nor can they watch anymore. And it becomes an anathema. It becomes just like, why are you doing this? But they still get the ratings. So, I can't argue with the people that tune in and watch the Sport Cook show. It's great. Congratulations. Right. We'd love to have that size of audience. It'd be fantastic. But the only problem is we wouldn't change that way. It wouldn't change. We wouldn't adjust in order to do that. So, we'll earn the audience on our own.
So, want to get to this story because another wolf is gone in the state of Colorado.
That's what we talked about yesterday. And you made a great point about is the first gentleman mad? Is he upset? Did he tweet about it? He's
having a hard time.
Yeah.
He's really into animals. I knew he was kind of into animals.
Yeah.
But he's really into animals.
Oh, I get it. And I appreciate him being an animal advocate. But there needs to be some temperance inside of that to understand that it's not only about the animals, it's about the relationship the animals have with the people. Just like we outlined yesterday, the pack that was moved, it was moved because it was a danger to the sheep, the rancher, and they were getting more comfortable coming into populated areas.
Right.
That is when you need to move them. And yes, another one of the wolves, we had 10 that were introduced, and we're now down 3. 3 of them are gone.
7,
And,
but we added 2.
Yeah. Yep, we did. And the issue is that's what happens in the wild.
Yep.
We should not have expected all of these 10 wolves to make it all the way through. In fact, I would say that because they are in a new environment and because they're getting introduced into a new ecosystem, if you get a 50% survival rate for the first 6 years, you're doing well. You're doing really well based on what they have to deal with and where they're going to go. We've lost 3. I still think we can lose another 2 and you're still doing just fine. Now, if we lose the majority of the 10 that are reintroduced, for me, rather than put more wolves in, I think you reevaluate and go, oh, this isn't working.
Right.
This just isn't working.
And the big deal is, and they said this from the beginning, there's 6 million people in this state.
Yes.
It ain't Montana.
No.
It ain't Wyoming.
Nope.
We got a lot of people here.
Yep.
And that's where you're going to run into frustrations.
Yeah. And if they continue to, because again, predators will look for the easiest prey item. That's why when you talk about on the plains of the Serengeti, how the cheetahs and the lions are always chasing down the sick wildebeests.
Yep.
That's
exactly
why. And same thing here. If getting inside the population, it is easier for the wolves to take advantage of trash cans, take advantage of neighborhood pets. And most importantly, what we saw in Grand County, they found a ready-made food source that was penned in. They could only be in one little area.
No, it's like the Serengeti now all of a sudden has a drive-through McDonald's.
Exactly. That's exactly it. It's like, or those things where you go in and you like to, at that Red Lobster, you get to go in and get your own lobster. You're reaching. So that's basically what it is. It's that. They've got them all in a tank and the wolves just walking around going, ooh, I'm going to take that one in the back. Yeah. So, they got to move.
So Colorado Parks and Wildlife received a mortality signal from the male wolf's collar on Monday. And on Tuesday, wildlife officials confirmed that the wolf had died. The agency announced in a news release Thursday. The wolf was identified, this reminds me of like Star Wars, 2307-OR.
That is great.
It was found dead in Grand County. Wow, this is...
Did they say how? I didn't read that far into the...
We don't know that yet.
Story. Okay.
They got it.
I'm curious.
I mean, dude, the amount of resources we spend on these things is just crazy.
And
First of all, it wears a little collar that tells the world if it died.
Yeah. But I think that's
we don't
important.
do that to humans.
No, we could. That'd be weird. But
your Apple Watch.
Yeah. The actions. Oh my God. I'm okay. You're dying in 10. Wait a minute. Hold on. This is on the calendar. Apple knows way too much about me.
Mortality signal.
Exactly. Oh my God. And if that goes off in a restaurant, everybody's going to freak out. But especially if it's the Blue Plate Special or in the afternoon Perkins, then we're really in trouble here. Now, the issue is that yes, we should know why the wolves are dying because you want to know if they're surviving inside the population. And I like the fact that we can monitor them and tag them, but we need to know also how it died because again, if it's involved in some sort of bacteria that is in the area, they got into something that they shouldn't have been eating. Is it a food source problem? Is it a health issue? And that is another going to be another significant thing based on this going forward. If the wolves can't find enough wild prey in order to sustain themselves, then maybe we shouldn't have the wolves because you don't want to put them out there to starve. We know that the other male that was put down the other day, it was because of injured back legs and then he couldn't hunt and he wasn't feeding himself. So I understand that Marlon was very upset, but would he have preferred to allow that wolf to starve with broken legs in the wild? I understand the euthanization is a difficult choice, but is the better choice for that wolf to have the rest of its life in pain and suffering? I find that hard to believe if you care so deeply about animals that would be the choice he would advocate for. But he was big mad about the fact that euthanized the wolf that was starving and in pain.
Well, and like we pointed out yesterday, he's putting a lot of pressure on CPW because CPW is remaining neutral in all this, right? They're not celebrating the wolves. They're not disparaging the wolves. They are remaining neutral, and that does not make the first gentleman here in Colorado happy. So I will repeat my call yesterday. If you work for Colorado Parks and Wildlife, and you feel that politics is starting to interfere with your job, you can anonymously contact us because CPW should remain neutral. And it's not right for the first gentleman of Colorado to go publicly putting pressure on CPW agents to get on his side of this political issue.
Yeah. Now, to all the CPW agents out there that are feeling that political pressure, I got one very, very important thing to remind you of. You can take this in your back pocket, and the next time you see something from the first gentleman, the next time someone's talking to you about that political pressure, I want to remind you of something. He wasn't elected to nothing. He doesn't hold a public office. He's not elected. He has no fundamental power. Tell him to get bent. Yeah, sure, he sleeps with the governor, but if the governor is going to take on the battles of their significant other, that's a whole nother issue. So again, please feel free to ignore anything that comes out of Marlon's face hole or out of his little fingies when he's typing on the Twitters. Ignore it, because he has zero power. He has no more power than Jeff and I at this point. And the only advantage that we have is we got a radio show. He doesn't.
I do wonder if Jared Polis has a crush on me sometimes. I don't know. I'm just going to throw it out there. I may have just as much power as Marlon.
He might. There are those times when you're in public and he's giving those longing eyes towards you.
So
there's something so inappropriate I could have said. Sometimes the words need to stay inside my head. That's one for inside. We'll talk about it off the air.
CPW Director Jeff Davis wrote in a release, while this is sad news, these types of restoration efforts consider anticipated mortalities in our planning and a degree of wolf mortality, just like for any wildlife.
Yes.
Is expected both during restoration efforts and an ongoing basis. I mean, the fact that the CPW director, Jeff Davis, has to go out there and provide comfort and care to the voters of Colorado because the wolf died.
Yeah, it's like, guys, it's the wild. Wolves die. That's it. This is what it reminds me of. Yes, we're going to talk about snakes. Okay, I'm in a number of snake groups, and a couple of them. There's a couple of them I'm a moderator in, and there is always this question about having a baby snake, about what size enclosure should I put it in, and there's this idea that you don't put the baby snake in too large of an enclosure because the snake gets scared and it's too much territory for it. And my response is, have you seen the wild?
Yeah, right.
The wild, that place is huge. It's enormous. Do you have any idea how big outside actually is? And baby snakes get out there and do survive and get eaten and die, and some thrive all the freaking time. Don't talk about the idea that the enclosure is too small. And that's what we're doing here. We're like, in the wild, sometimes animals die. That's what happens. If we James Earl Jones passed away earlier, we circle of life kind of thing. You know, they almost should put them and make them watch The Lion King and do a little speech and the whole idea about the circle of life and how everybody wins together, and sometimes animals live and sometimes they die, and sometimes your brother kills you. You know, that's basically the message there. So yeah.
The death is the third among the 10 wolves reintroduced into the state in December. One wolf was found dead this spring, presumably killed after a fight with a mountain lion. Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Way to go, mountain lion. Another, the patriarch of the first pack, established by reintroduced wolves, died September 3rd after being captured by CPW following livestock killings. CPW said the wolf died of injuries it sustained prior to the capture, and that a third party will conduct a necropsy. The state's known wolf population now stands at 13. 7 survivors among the reintroduced adults, plus 4 pups from the Copper Creek pack, and 2 adult wolves remaining from a pack established earlier by wolves that migrated from Wyoming. One of the reintroduced wolves and her 4 pups remain in captivity following their capture, though CPW plans to release them later this year.
Yeah, they're probably going to try to find a place for him. And I'm wondering that adult that we talked about that was euthanized, that was injured, that was over there attacking the sheep. I've been thinking in the last 24 hours about what would be the possible injuries. How would that? And I'm curious. I don't know the size of the sheep nor the size of the wolf, but I'm wondering if during a hunt, one of the sheep just nailed the back end of the wolf for whatever reason, or it was a group that, you know, that they were going after one sheep and another one came in and hit it, because it wouldn't be hard for the sheep to knock the wolf over per se and then come down on top of it in order to break or fracture some bones involved in the hips. Wouldn't be too difficult depending on the size of the sheep. I don't know the size of the sheep. So that would be a possibility. I'm just wondering what would be the possible injury. That, or it would be something like jumping or traversing or falling. That would be the idea. I'm just trying to figure out how and why.
I'm going back to the Yellowstone episode where they kill the wolf and then they freak out because they thought it was a coyote, and then they killed it, and then because it has a collar, we now gotta like bury it or put it down a stream or whatever.
Exactly.
And then
we didn't actually kill it. Whoops.
And I'm just sitting there going, our culture is so weird.
Yeah, it is.
So weird. Like if you're concerned about, people eating cats in Ohio, you're a conspiracy theorist, but here the CPW director has to come out and reassure people that the wolves are still okay. And we just like pick and choose, and then don't even get me into the sanctity of life issue in this country. All right. Look, I want to talk to you about my friend Dan Caplis and Dan Caplis Law. Dan suggests that you should choose a lawyer who shares your values because who you choose to represent you in an injury case says a lot about you to everyone involved in the case, right? You show up in court with some guy you hired because you saw his picture go by on a bus sign. Well, it's going to communicate to everybody in the case that maybe you're not that serious. And Dan Caplis is pro-life, pro-family, pro-America. This guy's with us on the values. He's the son of a police officer and a former seminarian who's dedicated the last 40 years of his life to helping people who are hurt in serious motor vehicle crashes. But more importantly, he gets the job done in the courtroom. Dan is believed to be the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Dan is also believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado history. Dan Caplis Law is the official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. That shows you this guy is the real deal and a trusted firm. Dan Caplis Law is a serious firm for serious cases. You're probably saying, well, he's probably just for the rich and wealthy. I can't afford him. Dan accepts righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis so that he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. If you need Dan's help, give him a call. 303-770-5551. That's 303-770-5551 or hit dancaplisLaw.com. That's Dan, CAPLIS law.com. We'll continue with the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Jeff and Bill Show. Let's get to the phone lines. Fred, come on. Good morning, Fred.
Morning, Jeff. How are you this morning?
Well, I got your Range magazine you sent. Thanks so much for doing that.
Well, I thought the article in there about the wolves was a really outstandingly written and quite concise.
It gives you a sense of the history we've had to deal with here. Wolves kill lone Indian after he slays 9 of them. He emptied his rifle, fighting desperately with his knife, killing 9 wolves. A lone Indian on the Lake of the Woods, 30 miles from Warroad, was torn to pieces by the rest of the beasts that attacked him. This was an old article from a long time ago, but yeah, wow.
Well, and the other thing too is which pack of wolves they chose. You know, the other 3 states said no, and Oregon gave them yes, and it was considered the most deadly of all of the wolf packs. The other thing is on the same topic. You know, it's interesting. Marlon is really concerned about the wolf, but he doesn't care about aborting a baby.
Nope. It is always shocking to me on that stuff.
Yeah, what an inconsistency. And then the last thing is, and goes to something Billy was talking about, in the wild, look at all these nature shows that you generally see on PBS. Part of it is always one species killing another species.
Yep.
Oh, that's exactly right. Fred, appreciate the call. We've got to get to you choose the news here.
It was just like a Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom. Remember all that Saturday nights? That was the jam.
And Fred, thanks so much for the magazine. I appreciate you sending that to us. So let's get to you choose the news, Bill.
Yes, it is that time of the morning where we take our careers into our very own hands. It's the loser edition of You Choose the News.
Man, you are one pathetic loser.
Loser!
Let's go. Loser! You're a loser!
It's a losers club. Bunch of losers.
You're such a loser.
You made me feel like a loser!
She's a loser.
You are such a loser.
Loser.
Yes, these are the stories that both Jeff and Blake felt they were unworthy of our attention. So they get a second chance of glory. We call this the loser edition of everybody's favorite fake radio news game show, You Choose the News. You know how it works. Me, scour, web, headlines on a dumb story, and then we play this game. All right, and again, it is a secret. The secret almost slipped out during conversation yesterday that one of the people in charge is like, wait, you're doing what? No, don't worry about it. No, we ignored it. So shh, it's a secret. This is what happens when we are left unsupervised. All righty, gentlemen, here are your headlines for today. Headline number 1, number 1 with a laser. Headline number 2, like advice, the wrong one can be fatal. Headline number 3, love better left unsaid. And headline number 4, criminalizing fun and happiness. Your choice, Mr. Hunt.
Criminalizing fun and happiness.
Yes, criminalizing fun and happiness. Luckily, not happening here in the U.S. of A. It's happening up above us in Canada. Yes, America's hat. They're doing some really weird things up there. In fact, a 58-year-old educational assistant says she has been suspended from her job, is under criminal investigation for criminal use of a firearm.
Uh-oh.
Now, but what kind of firearm? See, the thing was, is the 58-year-old was having family over there in the backyard, and some of the kids are running around, and they were having some fun, and so she decided to join in. What were they doing? They're having a squirt gun fight. So she grabbed a squirt gun as she was coming out of the back, her back fence. She accidentally squirted the man that lives next door. Now, this guy is a neighborhood problem. He's the dude that complains about everything. He's the guy that gets his leaf blower and blows the leaves back onto the other person's yard. He's that kind of guy. And he filed a criminal complaint. She now has a criminal investigation, and because of it, involving a firearm on the police report. Yeah, it's a water gun, but they wrote firearm because I don't know what the Mounties are doing. But she now is suspended from her job.
Oh,
yeah, over a water gun. This is stupid.
Ridiculous.
I know. Speaking of stupid, let's go with another stupid story. Blake Olson, number 1 with a laser. Like advice, the wrong one can be fatal, or love better left unsaid.
Let's go with number 1, like a laser.
Yes, number 1 with a laser. If you were paying attention to the brand new event in the Olympics, the breakdancing, you'll be familiar with Rachel Ray Gunn coming out of Australia. The 37-year-old was absolutely awful and finished next to last. The only person that did not, that she did finish above, was a person that withdrew. So she beat them by default. One of my favorite ways to win.
Blocking? Or
yes, exactly. Well,
pop blocking?
Not very good. No. If you look at the stuff on video, it's absolutely awful. However, now she is number 1 ranked in the world in breakdancing. embarrassing because in order to qualify, she had to get a certain number of points. She amassed more points than anybody else. And the 3 ladies that won their Olympic gold medals didn't compete in sanctionized events earlier enough, so they didn't get any points. And the Olympics awards no points. So despite the fact that she's finished second to last in the Olympics, Ray Gunn is now number 1 in the world in breakdancing.
But she couldn't beat you. There's no doubt.
They're going to do
doubt she could beat
Eddie
you.
the Eagle documentary.
Yeah, exactly.
On her.
All right, we gotta hurry this one. I've been running my mouth. Jeff Hunt, like advice, the wrong one can be fatal, or love better left unsaid.
Love better left unsaid.
Love better left unsaid. Here we are in Japan. A woman recently reported to police that she is getting over 100 phone calls a day from some sort of stalker. Nobody's answering the phone. Turns out it was her husband. He just wanted to hear her voice, but he didn't say anything. Yeah, 100 times a day. That's it. That's the end of Tuesday News.
Justin Falk, director of Am I Racist? Up next, you're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
In the Mile High City on this Friday, September 13th. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show, 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Congratulations, you won the lottery. You woke up in the greatest country in history. We're gearing up for a whole nother hour of engaging discussions, critical analysis, but most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab your coffee, Denver, and let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Billy, we got something nobody else has in the nation.
Yes, because this is how we roll.
This
And in
is
fact,
how we roll, man.
that was a wonderful theme song to open this up, because we are going to talk about exactly how much money can talk, because you might have noticed there's this weird thing about DEI and people in companies all of a sudden getting paid six figures being DEI
Dude,
experts.
I saw like the University
hell
of
that
Michigan was paying their DEI expert like $350,000 a year.
And I'm sorry. And again, we can argue that. Yes, inside an organization, diversity, equity, inclusion in any organization can be a positive, because it can be. But when you have this top-down approach and you have these people being in charge of diversity, equity, inclusion for an entire organization and making up rules, we got a problem, especially when they're getting six figures. We got a problem, especially when, oddly enough, nobody 8-9 years ago was writing their master's thesis on DEI.
Yeah.
Nobody had a doctorate in DEI. All of a sudden, these experts start popping up. And as our friend outlines here, very special guest, it was a scam.
Yes,
How they
absolutely.
were doing it was a complete scam.
And I've seen this movie, Am I Racist, now twice. So I feel qualified, Bill,
Yes.
all right, to ask you a series of questions to determine, are you a racist? Are you ready, Bill?
Oh, God, I didn't study. Okay. Yeah. Be great on the curve.
Do you notice somebody's race?
Yes, but not in the dark, because it's very
That
hard.
would make you a racist.
Uh-oh.
Do you try to not notice somebody's race?
Yeah, but when I do, I close my eyes and I run into things.
That would make you a racist.
Oh, man.
Are you a living, breathing white male in America?
Hang on here. Yeah, got a pulse. Yep, I'm good on that one.
That would make you a racist.
Ah, crap. I'm not doing well in this.
At some point, may you be a dead male in America?
Some days, the way my kids talk to me about, if you just,
That too would make you a racist. This is the
Oh,
brilliance
man.
of this film. Is like you literally,
I'm
they
so
tie
excited.
you in knots so that no
Yeah.
matter which direction you go,
Yep.
I don't notice race. I do notice race. I'm just breathing.
Yes.
I may be even dead.
Oh,
Still a
jeez.
racist.
Oh, and
That's the exposure of this brilliant film, Am I Racist?
It's absolutely wonderful, because it took something that everybody had on one side of the aisle had accepted as a truism, and then asked real questions about it. What is this conversation about racism? Are we really having a conversation, or instead are we just pushing a conclusion? I think you can guess which one they found out, and they did a brilliant job doing it. Yes, getting paid fat checks.
Yes.
For a scam. Oh, it's awful.
So we have the director of Am I Racist, because he's a Coloradan and he's a good dude. He's going to be joining us in this hour to talk about it. Here's the trailer of this great film. It's out today.
Let's be clear what's happening in this country. It's Nazism. Republicans are Nazis. You cannot separate yourselves from the bad white people.
Growing up in the 90s,
racist. We're going to talk to the director here in
yes,
just a second. Let's
So
check
good.
in first with news and comment from Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Oh man, I can't wait to hear that interview. That is what I wish I could have watched it with you last week when you sent me that text, but can't wait to hear the interview. That's
yeah,
awesome.
it's in theaters now. Go watch it
That's
this
great.
weekend.
Yeah, you
Absolutely.
take kids.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone, we got to do that. Absolutely. 55 and sunny in Denver, expecting a high of 83 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story.
Sparks were flying everywhere. It was definitely kind of a scary scene, sort of, you didn't quite know what was going to happen next because you could tell certainly he was definitely trying to get away from the police.
That's Casey Malone, an assistant track coach at CU. He was a witness to this. There were several hit and run crashes involving a pickup near Foothills Parkway and Arapahoe Avenue in Boulder last night. Witnesses reported a man driving a blue truck was involved in at least two before hitting several trees and signs. Officers tried to stop the driver, but he got away before ramming the gate to drive onto Folsom Field at the University of Colorado, where the visiting team runs onto the field. After negotiating with police, Carl Hagland got out of his truck and surrendered to police. He faces numerous charges, including criminal attempt, vehicular assault, and reckless endangerment. And it looks like his truck stalled, I think, at the 40-yard line. Charges are pending following a deadly shooting and a standoff in Broomfield. Officers called out Thursday morning to the Arista Flats apartments for a disturbance. A man inside the apartments began shooting at officers into the other apartments and the parking lot. A woman who was inside the apartment with the suspect was pronounced dead from a gunshot wound. The man was shot by officers before being arrested. He was taken to a local hospital with serious injuries. The mainstream media never talks about the assassination attempt on former President Trump anymore. A few months that has passed, and even though it's one of the biggest stories in the country, the Secret Service leadership is an absolute disgrace right now, and Josh Hawley of Missouri continues to bring more to light.
The Trump rally was undermanned. It was understaffed. They did not have people who had experience on it. And now this advance agent, I'm told, may have failed one or more for training exams and was known not to be a top quality agent. I mean, this is absurd. And the fact that the director will not level with the American people about what's going on here is just totally unacceptable and unbelievable.
No doubt. Former President Trump says polls are declaring him the winner of Tuesday's debate against Kamala Khan. And he said he will not debate Harris again because she's like a boxer who was knocked out.
The first words out of that fighter's mouth is, I want a rematch. I want a rematch. And that's what she said. I want a rematch, which means that she was like a prize fighter that lost a fight. We had two debates, though. I had a debate with crooked Joe Biden, right? And I had another debate with her. She was a no-show at the Fox debate. Fox invited her. She was a no-show. She didn't.
Yep, she turned that one down. Hey, the Ohio town where immigrants are being accused of eating dogs and cats is now getting bomb threats. The City Hall of Springfield, Ohio, was evacuated Thursday because of a bomb threat that was emailed to multiple city facilities, including some schools. There are huge issues in this town of 58,000 where 20,000 Haitians were placed. Mark Sanders also represents local government.
There's a lot of vicious rumors floating around. I will tell you that our geese, our duck population is nearly decimated in our two parks. What we are is a city that only wants our safety, security, and sovereignty back. We've had total upheaval because of it. Our food pantries, they get stripped. Our clinics, which is Rocking Horse, is a federally funded clinic in town. Their budget was decimated. Our emergency rooms are overrun. Our roads are it's like Escape from New York, and everybody feels like Snake Plissken. You don't know if you're going to get from point A to point B without getting run over, run into, or have a SUV flip over in front of you. The bad driving is multinational. I don't want to sound like it's only one group that's doing it, but I think that they're the most that's happening. I mean, they have between 4 and 6 wrecks a day, and probably over 50% of those are people without licenses, without insurance, and have no English skills.
Elections have consequences. There's proof. College football tomorrow. One of the big games, of course, CU at CSU in Fort Collins. 51 in Superior, 53 in Littleton, 55 in Denver. Now back to the races. Jeff and Bill, they continue. TGIF. Oh, I am one also, evidently. Blake Olson, News Talk, 710 KNUS.
Your KNUS forecast for the Denver metro area is a milder one today thanks to a cold front that pushed through the area overnight. A weak frontal system, highs today, closer to average, low to mid-80s. Sunny to mostly sunny. It'll be cool tonight, low 50s. Trending warmer for the weekend and early next week. High temperatures back to the upper 80s to near 90 degrees, lows mid-50s. A couple of showers and thunderstorms.
Weather sponsored by branchplanning.com. Secure your future retirement with a reliable income stream. Annuities can provide guaranteed payments, giving you peace of mind. Get your complimentary review at branchplanning.com or call 303-219-0088. I'm meteorologist Mark Huer in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Opening in theaters across the nation today, Am I Racist? This is kind of version 2 of What is a Woman? If you saw that, which was a remarkable film that ended up kind of attacking primarily like the elitist liberal mindset that they couldn't even define what it means to be a woman and expose all that. And The Professor, oh my gosh, that was one of my favorite films. This is like a great follow-up where Matt Walsh of Daily Wire now takes on the DEI industry, and he essentially Borats it. So if you remember those great Borat movies, so very honestly and earnestly, he tries to go on this journey because everyone is now obsessed with race. And so he asks this question, am I racist? And he tries to show up at these, like little workshops that are put on. But the problem is everybody knows who Matt Walsh is. And so they kick him out. They get like really angry at him. And at one point, like people are saying, I don't feel safe here and all this stuff. And so he now has to put on this disguise, which is kind of a disguise, but anybody knows Matt Walsh. It's like, that's clearly Matt Walsh. But for whatever reason, the libs can't figure it out. And he goes on this journey to understand his own personal racism, which starts at a bookstore in Boulder and then transitions into taking online classes and becomes this certified DEI instructor. All of that to expose kind of the lunacy of the thinking within the DEI industry. Because as I mentioned right at the top of the hour, no matter what you do, you're essentially a racist. If you ignore race, you're a racist. If you recognize race, you're a racist. If you're breathing and white in this country, you're a racist, essentially. So he exposes the lunacy of all of it. This film is amazing. I've seen it twice now. You've got to go see it at the website, amiracist.com. But we are honored to have in studio, live here, because he's a Coloradan, the director, the writer of this film, Justin Folk. Thanks so much for being on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Jeff.
Welcome.
It's guys. It's great to be here with you guys.
It's really cool.
Beautiful looking studio that you've.
We're having fun here.
Yeah.
You know, it's getting better. Sorry. Once Stephen Tubbs left, man, then we really jumped in.
Yeah.
Made this a quality operation.
Oh, yeah, they did once he.
I don't get up early for anybody.
I know. That's I'm like, you got up early. I mean, there are not many people that know their 2 6 o'clocks every day. I mean, you came in before 7, my man. That is fantastic to make the drive to come in to sit down with Jeff, myself, and our listeners. Thank you. This means a lot to us.
And thank you for the coffee, sir. I appreciate that.
Hey, anytime. I'll get you more in the next break.
So let's talk your journey making this film. You come out of What is a Woman? Huge success. I mean, you talk about cultural products that change the conversation of a nation, the most powerful nation in the world. You produce that with What is a Woman? Now you guys decide you want to take on the DEI industry. Walk us through the whole creative process.
we knew that we didn't want to get off this train. I mean, we kind of had a little lightning in the bottle situation working with Matt Walsh and my team. My team is just fantastic, just total pros, and a very small, tight knit team. And we all really genuinely just love each other. We just love hanging out. We loved being together. And movies like this are very challenging. So it helps if you like the people that you're working with. And so we knew we wanted to do something else after What Is a Woman. But the challenge is, and this is always the challenge for a successful film, is what do you do next? What's the next effort? What's what you call the sophomore effort or the sequel or whatever you want to call it? And we knew that we had to kind of go bigger and bolder. And so, okay, how do we do that, right? So we just figured we'd go hard to the paint on comedy. And in the sense of this issue of race, it's sort of ripe for it. It's kind of fertile for comedy. There's just so much absurdity out there. These race grifters have been pushing these just absurd notions for so long. And they're just, and of course the left won't do it. People who are supposed to be calling balls and strikes are not doing that. And so we step into the void. And we give Matt an opportunity to do what he didn't do in What Is a Woman. And here's some distinctions between the movies here. And that's to essentially become one of them and explore what that's like. And I think, honestly, I think Matt had more fun making this movie than anybody else because he got to inhabit a character that is actually like the polar opposite of who he actually is. Play the yin and the yang. And he got to be somebody, the totally polar opposite of who he is in real life. Now, the reason he was good at doing that is he's so well read. He's so smart, but he knows the other side's arguments. He knows what these people are saying. In fact, I think he knows it better than they do in some cases. And so he can kind of adapt this character and sort of become this DEI grifter. And I like to joke around. I basically say that Matt, this thing is a cult, right? This DEI thing, it has every sort of trait of being a cult. And Matt sort of becomes the David Koresh of DEI, he sort of looks like it a little bit too. But I think Matt had more fun making this film than probably anybody. I certainly did too. It had its challenges. But ultimately, this was an experiment. We would try to create these situations with these real people, these so-called experts, and then just drop Matt into the middle of it and see what happens. And of course, there's no second takes. It's like we're going to get what we're going to get.
Right.
But it's very revealing. And that's what we hope to do with this film is just reveal what these people are actually saying, what they're teaching, what they're preaching to America, and then just let America decide if they buy it or not. And
right.
That was our goal.
I mean, you allow them to speak for themselves, right? There's no editing in the sense that you're putting words in people's mouths by any means. In fact, Robin DiAngelo, which we'll get into in a second, she hasn't seen the film and she describes her experience. And I go, well, that's exactly how you're portrayed in the film, right? Like there's no cuts there or gotcha moments. You just allow them to talk. But because it's such lunacy, like let's talk about the race to dinner.
Sure.
Right. So this is where women pay these two other women to come in and tell them how racist they are over dinner and essentially shame them. Yeah. And some of the strongest lines.
That's a job.
Right. I know.
Yeah. What?
$5,000 a dinner.
No.
Yeah. Isn't that right? 5,000.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. That's the going rate.
Dude, we are missing a gravy
know.
train.
Yeah.
I mean, you know how this show works. I am perfectly fine coming and telling anybody how they suck. We could do this.
Kyle Clark could really jump on this.
Yeah.
I think women would love for him to just talk about how terrible an extremist they are. Pay Kyle Clark to come to your dinner.
Oh, that's fantastic.
I'll tell you how much of an extremist you are.
You have to tell me about these ladies.
I think Kyle Clark should attend one of these dinners. I think he should be there with all those white women sitting.
Justin for the win today. That's wonderful.
Yeah. So, I mean, these ladies are like some of the strongest lines you get in the trailer come from Race to Dinner. Talk about that.
Well, again, going I said it previously, it was just fertile for comedy. I mean, it's totally absurd. They're having these dinners and they're basically getting paid to call these women racist. So we just there's a problem though. Matt is not a white woman, and so we're like, how can we get Matt into the dinner? So we did reach out to them and we said, hey, we would love to film one of these dinners. and feature it in a documentary. We're doing a film on anti-racism, and you guys are one of the biggest examples of anti-racist, activism, and will you allow us to just kind of be a fly on the wall? And they said yes, and we paid their fee, and they invited the women, and we had this beautiful dinner set up, elegant, plenty of wine to go around, and of course they did their thing. And I was shocked. I couldn't believe what was coming out of these women's mouths. And the fact that these attendees, the women at the dinner, would just nod their head and agree with all of it is just absolutely insane.
And cry. They had a cry room. In many of these circumstances, they had a cry room.
If you're a white woman and you're going to cry, you're supposed to leave the room, is what they say. Because white women crying takes the energy and the attention away from everybody else. They say this in the film, but it's a crazy thing to watch. And so that's our goal, is just to let Americans see this insanity, and then just add a little sprinkle of humor, which is Matt being one of the servers. And I don't want to give the spoiler of what he does at the very end of the dinner, but he's out there, I would say over serving would be the term I would use. He's so caught up in the conversation that he has to make himself a part of it. And there's just some real comedy there, where there's these awkward moments of Matt interjecting in this conversation of these women telling these other women that they're racist, and Matt agreeing with them, and just hijinks and unfold.
So Race to Dinner is actually here in Colorado. It's housed here in Colorado. If you look at the bottom of their website, it says Denver, Colorado. And the lady that runs this, Sarah Rao, I think. Sarah Rao ran for Congress. She challenged Diana DeGette in a Democratic primary, and she just comes off as viciously racist in this film.
She is the most vitriolic, hateful person I've ever come across in my life. And I say that I'm using hyperbole here. She is viciously just angry and hateful all the time. That is her, her meter is cranked at 100 when it comes to hate and straight up just racist.
Now, is she the person that we heard talking about this being a piece of S country and Nazi? I just wanted to outline that for the listeners when they heard the trailer, that's the person you're talking about, the lady that said this country is a piece of S, isn't worth saving, and that all Republicans are Nazis. Yeah, that's a pleasant person.
Oh, right. She's delightful. I mean, here she is. First of all, she's incredibly wealthy, right? Living in one of the most wealthy countries in the world. She's incredibly privileged. Her husband, I forget what he does, but he's like a big finance guy, tons and tons of money. And yet she just preaches this victimhood all day long and trying to paint herself and everybody else as a victim. And it's crazy, like the hypocrisy, the insanity of it all. And so I think people need to know that these people are out there, and they're influential. She is influential. Race to Dinner is a thing, and this is what a lot of people believe. And so again, our goal is just to show Americans the absurdity of it. Just
the absurdity of it, and then the point being, we've got to get to a place essentially of Martin Luther King, right? Where we judge somebody by the content of their character. This is not, I know the left will paint this as, well, you're ignoring racism, or maybe even you guys are white supremacists, that type of thing. But the mission being, at the end of the day, we just want to judge somebody by the content of their character, right?
Right. The color of your skin. And Dennis Prager says this a lot. I love this from him. He just says, the color of your skin should matter as much as your shoe size. And it's just like, it's that important, which is not important. And somehow we've drifted away from that. I felt like we were getting there, and we've never been perfect.
I mean, I went to Cherry Creek High School. That was the whole vision when I was at Creek.
Right.
Yeah. We are going to get to a point of colorblindness.
Yeah, we grew up in that era where like black people were the coolest people in society at the time.
Yeah.
And us, being a white suburban kid, I idolized these guys. And that doesn't mean that racism had gone away from the world. There was still racists out there, but they didn't have any like real bearing on society. They're not holding doctorate degrees, and they're not like the chair of boards, and they're not running academia. They're relegated to the worst parts of society. Being a racist is pretty much one of the worst things you can be in society. I felt like we had gotten there as close as we could be as far as being a post-racial society, and somehow these people come along in the media and they start to kind of claw that back. They start to reopen racial wounds and pour salt on them. You know, we have real racial wounds in this country. And that's why this is so nefarious. The fact that they would take those racial wounds, open them back up, pour the salt on them, call this thing systemic, because that way they can call everything racist, point to every white person as an oppressor and everybody that's not white as a victim, and sort of brand everybody like that, and basically get us back to where we were, which is like looking at each other based on our characteristics that really don't matter. And so my hope for this film is that we can get back to looking past race as an important attribute or something that needs to be focused on or obsessed about constantly.
That's why I so appreciate this film, because you do change the conversation in this nation. Now, part of how we got to where we are is this book called White Fragility by Robin DiAngelo.
Mm-hmm.
And she is the penultimate moment in this film, because as Matt's going on this journey, everyone's talking about this book. And then you know, Jimmy Fallon and Rainn Wilson from The Office and all these guys talking about how important this book is. And you get the author to sit down with Matt Walsh in disguise. You hear it at the end of the trailer there where she's like, we have to be careful. You know,
How
it is
in the heck
amazing.
did you do that? That was the one that shocked me at the very end. I'm like, they got her.
Yeah.
Like, she agreed. You got to share with us the story behind the scenes of how you managed to have that interview set up.
We certainly didn't want to punch down, and she is the grand marshal of the DEI parade. I mean, she is the one that's been
yes, it's a good way to put it.
Raising the baton and leading us into the promised land of DEI, whatever that is. And so, getting her was actually a process where we reached out to her. And we said, hey, you are Robin DiAngelo, you are the expert. Would you please grace us with your enlightened brilliance and please, do an interview for this documentary we're doing. And, so we
called Shades of Justice at one point. That's what she says, right?
We had some different working titles, and Shades of Justice was one of the working titles.
That's fair, because you guys hadn't settled on a title yet. Weren't things were still being workshopped. You have no idea what this could be called.
In our defense, the title did change a number of times.
I'm sure it did,
we had some different names along the way, and Shades of Justice was one of them. And so we reached out and we appealed to her ego a little bit. We said, you are the preeminent scholar on this issue. Would you please grace us with an interview? And of course, then we paid her fee. And $15,000 can, that's if you guys are ever interested in getting Robin DiAngelo.
For one interview, $15,000. Bill, we are in the wrong business.
Yeah, we are. And I'm going to have to go look in the couch cushions back there.
Yeah,
you got to pay Justin more, because this is ridiculous.
Take up a collection, and maybe you can get Robin DiAngelo in here.
Exactly.
And so she agreed to do the interview, and the interview. This is my point about the interview. None of it, like you said, Jeff, was edited out of context, and I believe that she would stand by everything that she says in the movie.
Yeah,
there isn't one thing that she would back away from in terms of what she said. But the X factor is Matt Walsh, and when you get him in the room with her, the guy is able to just sort of steer the conversation in ways that he is a rare and unique talent.
Yes.
There's nobody else like him. So he actually turns the tables on her in ways that people need to see. He basically takes her through an exercise. And this is what she makes a huge living doing, going to these corporations, Google, Netflix, all these big companies, Coca-Cola, and takes people through these workshops. So he proposes that they do a little role play and takes her through some exercises, and it is hysterical. So credit to Matt for his ability to sort of, just a straight-faced manner lead her down this path. And of course, I won't give away the spoiler at the end there, even though people kind of already know it's out there. But what he gets her to do at the end is absolutely insane.
Out of her own pocket.
Yeah, that's right.
Wow.
I mean, and basically,
maybe some reparations are paid.
Maybe so. And he basically, what he does brilliantly is he paints her into a corner, a logical corner, and she can't get out of it. The cameras are rolling, and once those cameras are rolling, she's trapped.
And
because
she even acknowledges it. She's like totally uncomfortable.
Yeah,
and she can't figure it out.
Yeah, but she can't find her way out of it because this is what she preaches, and he basically calls her out on it. And And so it's an amazing moment. I'm super proud of it. We didn't really think that we gave it like maybe a 5% chance that she would actually do it. But she did it. And
did you guys plan that, or did it just kind of organically?
That's something that we talked about.
Yeah,
I think in the planning of that interview, Matt asked the question, "What can we get her to do?" Okay, we're gonna have a great interview. We're gonna have all these great questions that we can ask her, but ultimately we want her to do something. We want to make a statement here. So that was something we talked about. And again, when this absolutely insane moment comes up and she stares Matt and at Ben and Matt and tries to, is this real? It's like those two guys just kept her in the scene and they just had her trapped. It was checkmate. And she had to do it. So it was very proud of that moment. Actually, very proud also that if you go to the Wikipedia today, and if you go to Robin DiAngelo's webpage and you scroll down under body of work, at the very bottom, it says that she's set to star in the new movie Am I Racist, coming out September 13th, 2024. So,
well, we were talking to Justin Folk. He's the writer and director of the new smash hit that's going to come out today, Am I Racist, in theaters across the nation. If you want to get tickets, learn more about the film, watch the trailer, go to miracist.com, miracist.com. It's all there. We're going to continue this conversation, and I want to get to some of the sweeter characters. There's one that I really love. Well, actually, I mean, your brilliance in the film is that across race, there are characters that get it exactly right. And it's not who you expect. So we're going to get to that in a second. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show, live in studio. Justin Folk, director of the smash hit Am I Racist? He's a Coloradan. The film comes out this weekend. That's important because ticket sales for opening weekend make all the difference on how long this film runs, how many studios or theaters it's going to be in subsequent weeks. So it's really, really important. Conservatives, get out there and enjoy this film.
Yeah. What do you think? What do you think our audience has got a better to do tonight than go see this movie?
Right?
What else possibly is out there? Unless there's some sort of like fantastic concert or, okay, your significant other has said we got to go out to dinner, but hey, dinner and a movie, or do it the right way. Do movie then dinner, because then you have something to talk about during dinner.
Or
even
better, do the movie and then dinner and then movie again.
Yes, to talk about what you saw the first time.
Did you see what I saw?
Yes, I like how Justin's thinking. Yeah.
Now,
so again, you're doing so you don't have anything planned yet this weekend. You're looking for something to do with your friends. It's always that. What do you want to do? I don't know. What do you want to do? That conversation ends right now. The answer to that is go see Am I Racist? It's not going to put a big dent in your pocketbook. It's going to be a fantastic, fun time, and you're going to spend a lot of time laughing, and then afterwards, you're going to have so many things to talk about afterwards. So,
dude, the Robin DiAngelo scene I was in a theater full of people, and they were literally falling out of their seats at one point. I mean, it is. So, Am I Racist? Matt Walsh's subsequent film to What is a Woman? He essentially Borats the DEI industry. In fact, Robin DiAngelo, who wrote White Fragility, even admits that it is a Borat-style mockumentary titled Am I a Racist? And designed to humiliate and discredit anti-racist educators and activists.
Right. She responded, and she responded well.
That was her writing. Yeah. And Matt Walsh was like, yes, exactly. Thank you, Robin. Exactly. I want to pivot to the good people in the film.
Yes.
Who are just normal people. And what you did brilliantly is it's both black and white.
Right.
So Matt Walsh gets on this little scooter. He's dressed as this DEI goofball, and he goes to a biker bar. So he rides up in this little electric scooter, and he goes into a biker bar, and he starts asking these tatted up, tough guys, have they decentered their whiteness?
Yeah. And that's, again, credit to Matt for being able to humiliate himself in that moment. But that was such an important part of what we wanted to do here. We didn't just want for people to laugh at the absurdity of these race hustlers and the DEI people. We wanted to provide a contrast, and really the heart and soul of the movie are these people. One in particular, Milton, who's a
best guy in the film.
Yeah, he runs a auto shop there in New Orleans, Louisiana, and we discovered him just by accident. We went to go get a sandwich. We were down there filming, and we look across the street from the sandwich place, and there's Milton sitting there in his chair, and we're like, we gotta go talk to this guy. And Milton just gives such a beautiful take on the issue of race and how we get past this as a society. And what's interesting is what Milton says is no different really than what the guys at the biker bar said.
Exactly.
And so the common people in our film, the regular everyday people, the regular everyday Americans have a message in our film, which is we can get past this if we just treat each other well. Like we need to stop obsessing about this stuff. And so that holds in direct contrast to the experts in this movie. And I hope that's what people take away from this movie is us as common everyday Americans. We know how to get past this, but we need to stop listening to those other people.
Well, and to the black man that owns the auto shop that you just happened to stumble upon, it's the teachings of the Bible that we are to love one another.
Yeah,
that's it. I mean, that's it. I mean, it is so profoundly simple and beautiful and elegantly said from a guy you just saw sitting across the street.
Yeah, so
It's
authentic,
awesome.
so authentic.
Love it.
He's not the only one that said that too. And that authenticity just stands out in a film of inauthentic people that are pushing this, grift. Yeah. And love that man. Love what he gave to this film. Love the simplicity and the beauty of that message. And I hope that's a huge takeaway for people.
And talking with Justin Folk, the writer and director of the new smash hit film, Am I Racist? Comes out today. There's been some pre-screenings around the country, and people have adored it. You're going to love this film. The website, amiracist.com. AmIRacist.com. I'm going to continue this conversation with him, particularly in how conservatives can shape culture. Next, you're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
to the Jeff and Bill on the Friday, September 13th, joining us live in studio. Nobody else has them. We are just that cool, Billy Boy. Is
yes,
Justin Folk, the director of the smash hit film Am I Racist, which is coming out today. And you can get tickets, find out where it is, all at amiracist.com. Watch the trailer there. Justin, you were doing, this is why you were such a gift to the conservative movement. As somebody that's been involved with lots of film projects, there's always that kind of push in the conservative world. Go see the film to help send a message to Hollywood, that type of thing. And you're like, okay, I'll do it. And, you kind of feel obligated. Obligated is the key word, right? What you have done is produce content that people want to consume freely, right? So the content itself is so funny and engaging and entertaining that people are like, I want to go see this film. I want to be entertained by it. And your craft reminds me of like 1990s MTV. Like it's kind of punk rockish. It's kind of Beastie Boys-ish. It just hits that tone of kind of some skaters put this film together. It's fun.
Yeah, I think that's literally true. I used to be a skater. And I appreciate that that's worked its way into my films, because that's kind of where I came from. And, as conservatives, we've struggled with this in the past. I think we're getting better. But here, the situation is we have the best ideas, but we didn't always have the best storytellers. And I think the goal here, the way we win, is to tell the best stories, to be the most entertaining, to take our ideas and get them out in ways that will be appealing and interesting and funny in some cases. And that's always been a goal of mine. And, if I can bring the sort of influences of my youth into that, then so be it. You mentioned Beastie Boys. I was a huge fan of the Beastie Boys growing up. In fact, I saw the music video they put out in the 90s called Sabotage. It was directed by a guy named Spike Jonze, who's a very big director. Spike Jonze also created the TV show Jackass. So right there, that kind of tells you everything.
And now I even love you even more.
Yeah.
That's like my secret love I can't talk about as a conservative.
Yeah,
I'm actually a huge Jackass fan.
I think now we can, though. I think we're the ones with the humor now. I think
right.
the left used to kind of own the humor in this country. They've ceded that over. They are humorless.
Nobody watches Colbert or Fallon.
No, they're
anymore.
not funny anymore.
No.
They're
Did you see
increasingly.
what happened with Fallon?
No.
He's 4 days. They've cut back. Friday's a repeat. He's only got Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Well,
Friday's a repeat.
The Tonight Show is 4 days.
Yeah.
Well, this is what happens. I mean,
I think it's Fallon. It's either Fallon or Kimmel. It's one of the Jimmys, but I'm pretty sure it's Fallon. Pretty sure it's Fallon now. It's only 4 days. That tells you how their audience is eroding, exactly to your point.
Well, this is the opportunity that we find ourselves. And, for me, I've always sort of challenged authority. And right now, growing up, I got into some, a little bit of trouble here and there. The teachers would always be very, put me in the corner for different things. But nowadays, the left is the authority. They control all the major institutions. They control academia. They control corporations. Everywhere you look, it is their narrative that is being pushed on us. And so now I get to make a living challenging authority. And that's what this movie is. We are challenging the authority of DEI and the initiatives and the billions of dollars that are being spent to tell you how to be a better person. And my hope, I think the target audience for this is the people that are just tired of this. The people that have sat through these seminars, the people that have had to endure these conversations and sit there with their mouth closed. And bless them, these poor people, because they probably couldn't say anything. They lose their job. This is a very real thing. You cannot speak out against it. And so we're speaking out against it. And we just hope that this movie gives people courage to push back. And we can kind of see it working already. I mean, I'm not going to take credit for this because it's already starting to unravel. And just yesterday, I saw the news story about Molson Coors pulling back on their DEI initiatives. But now's the time. And I hope this film is the nail in the coffin, I think, for this whole thing. And I don't know if we may disagree on this, but I think it should be totally illegal. I don't think I disagree with you, Jeff, but I think DEI defies the 1964 Civil Rights Act, which basically stipulates that we are not to profile and give preferences based on things like race. And that's exactly what DEI is. And so it's time to stop. It's time to move on. And we hope that this film will make people laugh and want to move on.
Talking with Justin Folk, the writer and director of Am I Racist? It's out this week across the country. Tickets are available at amiracist.com. That's amiracist.com. You are making conservatism punk rock, Justin. It's awesome.
Thanks. We're the new punk rock. We're like the, we're not biting heads off of bats or anything. But we can still be counterculture.
They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. Eat the cat. Eat the cat. They're eating the dogs. They're eating.
Don't you love the internet? Don't you just love Twitter and the internet? It's just X.
That has made that absolutely. Well, thank you guys. Go see this this weekend in theater with people.
Yeah.
You want to be in a theater and laughing at the craziness of the DEI movement. Justin, thanks again for being on the Jeff and Bill film. When we come back, George Brauchler is going to join us. Not going to want to miss it. Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
I think that qualifies as torture, Bill, to start that for our listeners with that cackle. Oh, my goodness. 8 a.m. in the Mile High City. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show, 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, and center. It's a beautiful day in the greatest country in history, and we're gearing up for a whole nother hour of engaging discussions, critical analysis, but most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab a cup of coffee, Denver. Let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Big news, DA Linda Stanley to be disbarred over misconduct during the Barry Morphew prosecution, a state board rules. This may be the first time this has happened in Colorado, that a district attorney essentially has her legal career ended as a result of, quote, ethics violations. George Brauchler was tweeting about this yesterday, and I want to get his take. He's going to be joining us in just a second. But first, news and comment with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey. Good morning, Jeff. A great hour last hour with you and Billy. 59 and sunny in Denver, expecting a high of 83 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story in D.C., Colorado's own Greg Lopez making the most of his short time in Congress, raising more awareness and shedding light on illegal immigration and gang problems in Aurora and across the country.
Tren de Aragua, a transnational criminal gang started in Venezuela prison, has invaded multiple apartment communities with all the ferocity of wild dogs. TDA extorts residents, intimidates witnesses, and has received clearance from their leadership to shoot cops. The Biden-Harris administration encourages this with a senseless border policy that refuses to prioritize America's safety. If we don't wake up, the next knock on the door will be for us. Thank you, and I yield back.
Now, no proof of Haitian immigrants eating dogs and cats, just a lot of rumors in Springfield, Ohio, but they did receive a bomb threat on Thursday at the city building. Mark Sanders is in government there and says there are huge issues as 20,000 Haitians were placed in the town with a population of 58,000.
There's a lot of vicious rumors floating around. I will tell you that our geese, our duck population is nearly decimated in our two parks. What we are is a city that only wants our safety, security, and sovereignty back. We've had total upheaval because of it. Our food pantries, they get stripped. Our clinics, which is Rocking Horse, is a federally funded clinic in town. Their budget was decimated. Our emergency rooms are overrun. Our roads are it's like Escape from New York, and everybody feels like Snake Plissken.
Sparks were flying everywhere. It was definitely kind of a scary scene, sort of, you didn't quite know what was going to happen next because you could tell certainly he was definitely trying to get away from the police.
That's Casey Malone, an assistant track coach at CU. He was a witness to a dangerous situation in Boulder. There were several hit and run crashes involving a pickup near Foothills Parkway and Arapahoe Avenue last night. Witnesses reported that a man driving a blue truck was involved in at least two before hitting several trees and signs. Officers tried to stop the driver, but he got away before ramming the gate to drive onto Folsom Field at the University of Colorado. And that's where the visiting team runs onto the field, by the way. After negotiating with police, Carl Hagland got out of his truck to surrender to police. He faces numerous charges, including criminal attempt, vehicular assault, and reckless endangerment. And it looks like his truck stalled at about the 40-yard line. Charges are pending following a deadly shooting and a standoff in Broomfield. Officers called out on Thursday morning to the Arista Flats apartments for a disturbance. A man inside the apartment began shooting at officers into other apartments and the parking lot. A woman who was inside the apartment with the suspect was pronounced dead from a gunshot wound. The man was shot by officers before being arrested. He was taken to the hospital with serious injuries. They didn't talk about the assassination attempt on former President Trump's life in the debate, even though the Secret Service has huge issues. What was allowed to occur on that day was unacceptable, and Josh Hawley continues to shine light on it, and more expected to come out on the incompetence or the corrupt Secret Service.
I'm told by people who are close to and have knowledge of the Secret Service's own internal investigation that the Department of Homeland Security is leaning on the Secret Service not to comply with document requests to Congress. I mean, this is really getting to be outrageous. The American people need the truth here.
Donald Trump says he's done 2 debates already, one with Kamala Khan and one with Biden, and that'll be all, since she avoided one on Fox. Not to mention, she avoids the American people by hiding from the press. She's like a boxer who lost the fight.
The first words out of that fighter's mouth is, I want a rematch. I want a rematch. And that's what she said, I want a rematch, which means that she was like a prize fighter that lost a fight. We had 2 debates, though. I had a debate with crooked Joe Biden, right? And I had another debate with her. She was a no-show at the Fox debate. You know, Fox invited her. She was a no-show. She didn't show up. And refused also to do NBC and CBS. She went over to ABC, which in my opinion has taken a big hit because these 2 people were bad news. So because we've done 2 debates and because they were successful, there will be no 3rd debate.
And the director of Am I a Racist with Matt Walsh in the studio with Jeff and Bill last hour, Justin Folk. That was great.
You know, I think Matt had more fun making this movie than anybody else because he got to inhabit a character that is actually like the polar opposite of who he actually is. You know, play the yin and the yang. And he got to be somebody, the totally polar opposite of who he is in real life. Now, the reason he was good at doing that is he's so well read. He's so smart, but he knows the other side's arguments. He knows what these people are saying. In fact, I think he knows it better than they do in some cases. And so he can kind of adapt this character and sort of become this DEI grift.
Go see it this weekend. College football tomorrow. See you at CSU in Fort Collins. 57 in Aurora, 56 in Lafayette, 59 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue. TGIF. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Your KNUS forecast for the Denver metro area is a milder one today thanks to a cold front that pushed through the area overnight. A weak frontal system, highs today, closer to average, low to mid-80s. Sunny to mostly sunny. It'll be cool tonight, low 50s. Trending warmer for the weekend and early next week. High temperatures back to the upper 80s to near 90 degrees, lows mid-50s. A couple of showers and thunderstorms.
Weather sponsored by branchplanning.com. Secure your future retirement with a reliable income stream. Annuities can provide guaranteed payments, giving you peace of mind. Get your complimentary review at branchplanning.com or call 303-219-0088. I'm meteorologist Mark Huer in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
You know, Bill, we spent a lot of time thinking about walkout music for speakers at the Western Conservative Summit.
Yeah.
Everything was scripted. All the walkout music was. This would be a good one for our next guest.
Yes, it would be. This would be a good one. It'd be either this or It's a Small World. I'm not sure which.
Or
they're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. Eat the cat. Eat the cat. They're eating the dogs.
All right, joining us.
Only if he comes out.
Only because it's become a
chain. I have a Kangol hat like back in the day.
Only because it's a circus since he left. George Brauchler, candidate for Judicial District 23, District Attorney, joins us. George, DA Linda Stanley to be disbarred over misconduct during Barry Morphew prosecution. The state board has ruled this is a big deal. And I'm not an attorney, but this seems like a really big deal. What do you think?
I'm not an attorney either, but let me say before we begin that if I had my choice, it would be ABBA's Dancing Queen, if I could do that.
Oh,
My walk.
That is great.
That would be good.
Really get in people's heads. This is huge. It's historic. If there has been another sitting district attorney that has been disbarred in our state's history, I'm unaware of it. Doesn't mean it couldn't happen at some point, but not in my professional career has anything like this taken place. And it creates some real issues as to what happens next, because according to the order, the disbarment takes place within 35 days. Now, according to the order, Linda Stanley has 14 days to try to appeal that ruling, or at least ask for a stay of that ruling. But the rules governing stays on disbarment are pretty strong against her. Anyone that is going to be disbarred, there has to be something Herculean, something unprecedentedly special that would make staying that disbarment a thing. So it looks to me like there's going to be a vacancy by inability or lack of qualification that the governor may have to fill, if only for the shortest periods of time. Now, somebody had asked me on social media as I was jibber-jabbering about this, they're like, well, does she have to leave? She's elected. So if she's disbarred, does that mean she's not the DA anymore? What a great question, right? Like, I mean, she had to be DA, she had to be an attorney, and had to have been in practice for 5 years in order to be elected. But if they take that away, does that function by law to just kick her out of the office? And who has the authority to say that? There's no way they're going to do a recall. Now, my hope would be that she would do the right thing and step down rather than put the system through some sort of a what now sort of approach to this. But, you know, the governor may be in a position to appoint Jeff Lindsay, who's the only guy on the ballot down there in the 11th, to be DA a little bit early.
George, this kind of, and look, I'm not an attorney, so tell me if I'm totally off base. But it feels to me kind of like the death penalty for SMU early on. It was what she did so egregious that she needs to have her career essentially ended as an attorney, from your perspective?
It's a great question, and it's one that we can look to the vote of the three members on this panel. It was a split decision. It was 2-1. The member of the panel that voted against disbarment, which you're right, Jeff, it is the death penalty for lawyers, right? There is no legal practice after that. Her name's Sherry Kaloya. She had been the former district attorney in the 9th Judicial District. Interestingly, Sherry was, I think, removed through a recall, but she voted against disbarment. She said, hey, look, I certainly find that there are ethical violations, the discovery stuff, the out-of-court statement stuff, the investigation of the judge stuff, and we can get into that. But she said, none of this, in my opinion, rises to the level of disbarment. Suspension, sure. Public censure, okay. But disbarment, it's a bridge too far. So even within the panel, this wasn't an obvious outcome.
So let's talk about what they deemed inappropriate and worthy of disbarment. Can you give us some details on that?
Yeah, there's a few buckets here to look at. One are the extrajudicial statements, which have gotten a lot of scrutiny. Now, there are two big rules that govern attorneys and prosecutors specifically. 3.6, it's a Colorado Rule of Professional Conduct. And it says that an attorney can't go out in public and talk about a case that they expect to go into court in a way that would prejudice that case. And so what you're really trying to say is, if you're going to go in and poison the well with jurors, it's unfair to go try your case in the public eye. For prosecutors, there's a specific rule, 3.8, because prosecutors have a ton of power, right? And they said, hey, prosecutor, you can't go charge someone with a crime and then go run around town talking about how guilty they are and how much evidence you have and discrediting their defense before you go pick a jury. That's not fair. That's not that doesn't uphold due process. She engaged in a lot of extrajudicial comments that I have to say, even at the time they got reported, were inexplicable to me. And they're born of inexperience. Now, Linda wasn't a big-time, long-time prosecutor, so maybe she was never confronted with this. But her willingness to engage podcasters and these other people that put out streaming products with discussions of things beyond just the procedure of the case, I've just never seen anything quite like it in Colorado. You see it in other places, Texas and Florida and places in the South. You just don't see it in the state of Colorado. And I don't know any prosecutors that thought, yeah, that passes the sniff test. I don't think that in and of itself, by the way, leads to disbarment. The other two buckets are this. One, they investigated the judge that ruled against them. Judge made some really strong findings. Judge certainly displayed a certain bias, potentially animus towards the prosecution team, did not trust the prosecutors when they said they'd provided certain discovery. And that got the prosecution team worked up. And rather than just file a motion to recuse, they got it in their heads that they think that this was motivated by his bias for his ex-wife, who was a big-time anti-domestic violence, missing persons kind of person. And they think that this was born of that. I don't understand that logic, but there was also a change.org petition that suggested that he had some things in his background, and these guys decided to run with it and decided to go interview the ex-wife, which is bonkers because it looks like they were trying to create some sort of bias that would get him recused. And then they tried to engage, but first, I think the sheriff's office to say, hey, can you investigate this guy? And the sheriff's office said, no, that's not what we do. And then they used their own internal investigator to do it. Pretty offensive, if you can imagine, to the disciplinary committee who works for the Supreme Court that governs attorneys. And then the final piece of this, there were several discovery violations that had happened repeatedly and in such a way that this judge got worked up to the point of saying, I'm going to exclude a whole bunch of the experts you need to prove at the time a no body homicide, which is some of the hardest work you can possibly do. All of those things added up were probably in and of themselves insufficient to get her to disbarment, but the cumulative nature of them probably overwhelmed the other two members of the panel who'd never seen anything like it.
Talking with George Brauchler, he's a candidate for Judicial District 23 and as their district attorney. We're talking the disbarment of DA Linda Stanley that took place this week. She's got 35 days, I guess, before that clicks in, but the state board ruled. Help me understand, because we see it, district attorneys out on television all the time talking about cases that they're trying. I imagine you trying the Aurora Theater shooting case were regularly informing the media your perspective, not just kind of procedurally what was going on, but the state's case. So what makes what she did different from what it seems like lots of district attorneys do?
This is the key distinction between what Linda Stanley did and what prosecutors, including me, do. If you go back and you look at the jillions of little interviews that were done during the pendency of that case, not a single one of them ever touched upon the substance of the case or how strongly I believed in something or trying to discredit the defense. To the contrary, on any case that gets any sort of media scrutiny, in every interview, I will always lead with or end with, hey, no matter what I say here, we've got to presume this guy innocent, right? Like the charges in court are mere allegations by the government, and this system cannot work if we go into trial with people already deciding that they know what the outcome is. And so we can't do that. I'll say that at every single press thing. But if you go back and look at my comments, until there's a verdict, I won't talk about this is the worst case I've ever seen. This is we're going to go get this guy. I don't talk like that. I don't know prosecutors in Colorado who do. They limit themselves to the procedural stuff. In fact, a big distinction between the U.S. attorney's approach and local elected DA's approach is this. When there's an indictment by the feds, they will do some kind of a huge press conference and you'll see all the evidence laid out on the tables. You know what I mean? And they'll have the cops there and they'll be holding up things for the camera. We don't do that as DAs. We save our dog and pony show for after the verdict and at the time of sentencing. And that's because we adhere to 3.6 and 3.8. That's the big difference.
That really helps clarify that. So one of the critiques might be, George Brauchler, that this is now just lawfare. Giuliani has had his bar removed by the state of New York. Jenna Ellis had hers threatened. She will maintain hers, but she had to agree to some stipulations. Is going after an attorney's bar license just now ways that people either engage in political lawfare or personal lawfare?
Yes, it is. In this particular case, I think a grievance, which is the gatekeeper, it's the complaint that gets you in front of Attorney Regulation Council. That was inevitable, given the cumulative nature of the things that happened. But what I'm more concerned about, given the 83-page opinion here and what they talk about with the discovery violations, is, does this set a precedent in the future for other prosecutors to be gone after based on discovery violations? Now, I'm not talking about prosecutors who willingly hide exculpatory evidence. They shouldn't just be disbarred. They should be prosecuted, right? Like, we should get rid of those people. But the vast majority of discovery violations that take place in the state of Colorado today are ones of omission, perhaps negligence, right? Where it's like, dang, the cops didn't tell me they had this video, or we didn't have this interview, or I thought I had discovered this. And there are recourses for that. If it happens enough times, some of the recourses are what happened in the Morphew case, which is, well, we're not going to let you use that evidence. We're going to strike your expert witness who you failed to give this evidence. Okay. But now with Linda Stanley's opinion, we now have a DA who was disbarred in part based on that discovery violation. Will this be the new attack by the defense against prosecutors on discovery violations to say, I'm going to go get your law license as a way to win my case for my client and to take some kind of revenge against you?
George Brauchler, who's a candidate for Judicial District 23's District Attorney Office, which is going to include Douglas, Lincoln, and Elbert counties. George, a lot of this seems to center around the Barry Morphew case. Big national case, right? And he obviously hasn't been tried. He's innocent until proven guilty. But there's a lot of evidence that he might have been involved with this. Was that part of what figured into the decision, you think, the fact that this was a national case with national attention? And where's this case going now?
Yeah, the case is still alive. Remember, it gets dismissed by the prosecutors who they want to regroup after taking the beating that they took in court. And then we find the body. Remember, we find the body after it's dismissed.
And she was tranked?
That's right. That's right. And there's a lot of discussion now about, hey, should we rush to charge now? And everyone remembers the little tranquilizer thing that was found in the laundry room, of Morphew's house and all that. And my advice at the time, and some media had asked me about it, was to say, whoa, slow your roll. There's no statute of limitations on first-degree murder in the state of Colorado. We see what rushing to the courtroom has done. Let's pace ourselves. And my advice was, get a grand jury going. It's a small enough jurisdiction that they have to go get permission from the chief judge to go get one. But go get a grand jury stood up and start the process of really digging deeply into this case and nailing down all of the things you need to before you walk charges back into court. And it also gives them some distance in time from this mess that was created under Linda Stanley's administration. Now, I think they're doing that, but I don't know. But keep in mind, Jeff, that's a high-profile case. That's what gets the attention, and that's what gets people talking about it. But there are other cases involved here, and the one that is the most tragic is the one involving the death of a 10-month-old child. And those charges ended up getting dismissed by a judge for the repeated some discovery violations, but the repeated out-of-court comments maligning the defendant. And this is the one where, if you'll recall, Linda Stanley was on, I think it was a podcast saying, or maybe it was even the news, saying, yep, this guy who they accused of murdering this kid was just in the house to get laid and do other stuff, find a place to sleep, and saying some really horrible things about him before he had a chance to get into the courtroom. That case got dismissed. That's the biggest tragedy here. Not Morphew, because Morphew can still be tried and won. But that case involved, that dead 10-month-old will never get justice. That case is over forever because of what took place. That's the biggest thing that happened here.
Oh, that's awful. Now, George Brauchler, candidate for the new Judicial District 23, joining Jeff and Bill live. I was going to ask you that maybe since Linda's, not going to have a law career, maybe she'd be a talk show host, because that's sometimes what lawyers do after. No, I'm kidding. Now, what I want to ask you about was a follow up on a question that Jeff had asked, talking about the Barry Morphew case and the national attention. And tell me if this is not a fair question, but could, in her position, the national attention and the brighter spotlight that the Morphew case gave create a difficulty for her to understand where that boundary was? All of a sudden, she has a bunch of people wanting to talk to her. And as you outlined, she just might not have understood where that line is. Doesn't mean it's okay. Doesn't mean it's okay that she crossed it. She still should lose her law license. But talk to us. You've been involved in some incredibly high-profile cases. How difficult is it to manage that intense spotlight while still playing by the rules?
Not
Really?
difficult. And
excellent.
Yeah, I don't think that is an out for her at all. And there's a couple reasons for that. One, the rules of ethics are not things that popped up the day she got sworn in. They have been in place throughout her entire career, mine too. But the other thing is this: when you get elected to be a district attorney, the Colorado District Attorney's Council puts together, in essence, like a baby DA school, and you get brought there, and it's like a 2-day, 3-day thing. That's all you do all day. They bring in other DAs. They bring in all these people to talk about, here are the things with standing up in office and HRO. And oh, by the way, here are some ethical things to be aware of that you may not have been. I get how line prosecutors, your regular deputy DAs, maybe even chief deputy DAs in most offices, are never confronted with media. But when you're the elected DA, you're responsible not just for the words that come out of your mouth, but the words that come out of everyone who works for your mouth. So this baby DA school spends considerable time saying, hey, here's 3.6 and 3.8. Here's the best approach to take. And when in doubt, shut your mouth. You know what I mean? It's just, when in doubt, what you don't say to the media will never come back to haunt you. No one ever gets in trouble for, remember that thing you didn't tell the media? That no one's ever said that. So I don't agree with that. And the fact that it happened repeatedly tells me there was just a disconnect there. And maybe it was reckless. Maybe it wasn't an intentional violation of the rules. I don't think she meant to do it. I just thought she was reckless about it. And it was the way she managed the team, too. If you read this 83-page opinion, it was a rudderless ship, right? Like, where was the captain? And this was an analogy that the prosecutors used in the regulation case. And that is, where was the captain for all this? Who's making these day-to-day decisions about these things? Well, it's people, not her. Instead, she's running to the media, making these comments on these different cases. So I appreciate the question, but I'm, as the guy who had at the time the highest profile criminal case in America, it had international attention, I did not find it difficult at all to tell the media, listen, I'll talk to you about procedure all day long, but if we're going to talk substance, you wait till the last day of the trial when we get the verdict back, and I will answer every question of yours. And I did that. When we got back that life without parole outcome of the sentencing, I spent maybe 6 hours in the parking lot of the Arapahoe County Justice Center, walking around vehicle to vehicle, and I'm talking for the press, answering questions for the very first time. It's not hard.
Oh, that's good to hear. Now, I was going to go a different direction, but something you just said there, I wanted to have you elucidate for our audience some of those rudderless decisions. Could you give us an example of a couple of decisions that were made inside the office that showed that the captain, rather than sitting there right behind the wheel or grabbing the tiller, was instead enjoying happy hour? What were some of the things in the examples that they showed that she just wasn't taking charge in the office?
Yeah, and whether it was happy hour or not, I don't know. But for instance, early on in the case, Jeff Lindsay, who's going to be the district attorney that replaces Linda, he goes and takes a look at the evidence and comes back with an OMG moment. Like, this is so much more massive than I could have conceived of. We really need a great deal of experienced help on this. And he doesn't get it. He gets like one other person, lower level, doesn't have a ton of experience to try to help out. And it sets them up for failure because they end up having these discovery violations. And even after the judge, the first judge, Murphy, admonishes them about discovery violations and says, look, bad things are going to happen if this keeps up. You got to fix this. Well, according to the report and the investigation that generated it, she didn't make any changes, didn't take it seriously, didn't do anything about it, just kept on keeping on. And so, you know, even in the discussion of, should we investigate the judge? Now, I get there are reasons that exist where you might investigate a judge, but say it out loud, and someone in the room has to be the person to say, hang on. Are we really talking about investigating the judge on our case based on the negative rulings and attitude he has towards us? Maybe we should take a pause. But that didn't happen. You need somebody to step up and make the hard decisions.
Now, George Brauchler, candidate for Judicial District 23, here with Jeff and Bill. We're talking about Linda Stanley being disbarred. First time that George can remember a sitting DA losing their law license over the behavior. And I want to talk about the cloud that now sits over that DA's office. How difficult, if for whatever reason, let's say you were appointed that DA there, how difficult and how hard is it to get the stink off the office. How difficult is it for you to start charting a new path, given the impression the community is going to have about how the last DA ran things? What's that challenge for the next person in line?
I think it's greatly diminished if she goes quietly now. Not don't appeal. Go ahead and appeal the decision, right? But the stay is not going to be granted. Don't fight staying in office. Step away. It's not an acknowledgement of anything other than your lack of legal qualifications to hold the job. You let Jeff Lindsay get appointed by Governor Polis. I presume that would happen. That change right there allows them to hit the ground running over these next few months leading into the January 14th swearing in of the new DA. Now, the other issue they have to contend with is they have not done well with the county commissioners in terms of funding. And that lack of funding has put them in a place to be resource strapped in their operations. That has exacerbated some of their discovery woes as well. So my hope is we turn the page. Jeff Lindsay gets in there. He builds a better relationship with the sheriffs. He builds a better relationship with the boards of county commissioners, and they can start the process of getting back on track and rebuilding the credibility of that office.
Talking with George Brauchler. Look, I want to talk to you briefly about Mountain High Appliance. They've cooked up some tasty deals for your kitchen now for a limited time. Receive up to a $3,000 rebate with the purchase of qualifying GE Cafe appliances. Enjoy the Mountain High Appliance price match guarantee and special financing options. Visit one of their 4 locations for all the details and upgrade your kitchen with GE Cafe appliances in Denver at East 64th, Littleton, Louisville, and Glenwood Springs. Mountain High Appliance. Experience the difference. Mountain High Appliance. Billy?
Yes, he sure can stay with us. We are going to be right back in a second with George Brauchler, candidate for district attorney candidate for Judicial District 23, brand new Judicial District. And we're going to be talking about the King Soopers shooting and what's going on up there.
You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show, 8:37 on this Friday, September 13th. It's going to be a nice one today. 83 degrees, 88 on Saturday, 89 on Sunday. The 80s continue all next week, too. There you go. Staying hot. Gotta love that global warming.
It's getting a little cooler, which is fantastic. And you and I, my friend, are hanging out with the great people at TAPS tomorrow night on their big charity fundraiser. So it's going to be cool. So hopefully some listeners are going to be out there. We'll be wandering around, pressing the flesh, hanging out, and having a delicious dinner. So it's going to be wonderful. It's going to be great to see Lynn and everybody else.
Tell folks what TAPS does.
TAPS is basically what they do is if a service member is killed in the line of duty, and it doesn't matter, it doesn't have to be in a combat zone, it can literally be in a training exercise, doesn't matter, but that is a huge hole that is left in the family's lives. So TAPS comes in and provides the support services. They come in and provide counseling even for children. They'll provide a mentor they can connect with. They take them to summer camps. This is all about making sure the family knows they are supported and they're part of the military community and they're still special. And so it's an incredible organization that is really close to my heart that helps people in that darkest time when that member of the family that has given their life in whatever way for the service of our country now needs our support. That's who they're here for. That's why we're going tomorrow night. That's why they're important to me.
It looks like they still have tickets available. So
taps.org.
Taps.org. Wings Over the Rockies, 5:30, general reception, 6:30, dinner and program. Support those that sacrifice it all for us and their families. So, yeah, love to see you out there. 19th annual TAPS Colorado Celebrity Classic. But Bill and I aren't celebrities enough to be up on stage.
No, not at all.
Not quite.
And they know what happens when they put me in public. So no, it's a good thing.
All right. Joining us live on the VIP line is George Brauchler. He's a candidate for district attorney in Colorado's Judicial District 23. Yes, you know that name. He was the lead prosecutor against James Holmes in the Aurora Theater case. He's now going to likely win his election and become district attorney of the new Judicial District 23, which includes Douglas, Elbert, and Lincoln counties. In previous weeks, George, you came on the show to talk a little bit about the King Super Shooter, and I saw this headline that I wanted to vomit when I saw this out of the Denver Gazette. Alleged King Super Shooter yelled, "This is fun," as gunshots peppered the grocery store. A pharmacist heard the alleged Boulder mass shooter shout, "This is fun. This is such fun." Sarah Shen, her voice shaking from nerves, told a rapt jury on Thursday that the defendant repeated the shocking statement at least 4 times. Now, the case is not being tried over whether or not he did it or not, but whether or not the shooter was insane when he did it. This, to me, sounds like a guy that knew right from wrong, but was reveling in the fact that he was doing such awful things. George, what's your take?
Well, it's certainly good evidence if you're the prosecution that this guy is evil. That's for sure. But if you're the defense, and I want to take up their cause just for a moment, because if you recall from our last conversation during the openings, the defense made some pretty big concessions, and that is out of the 2 prongs that the prosecutor has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. One, that the defendant, the shooter, could form the intent to murder after deliberating. That's one. And 2, that he knew right from wrong. They conceded the first one. They said he absolutely showed up there with the intent to murder. What they would say about that comment is they're going to say the "it was fun" comment is a sign he doesn't know right from wrong. What person in their right mind would think that shooting helpless, unarmed, innocent people in a supermarket was fun? That's a crazy person. That's what they're going to say.
Yeah, I just totally see it different. I see it as a guy that was reveling, right, in the evil that he was participating in, that he knew it was wrong, and he just loved it. That's my take.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm saying that for purposes of the defense, and the defense has a real uphill battle, and we're about to get into what I believe is the most important part of this trial. Everything up to this point, it's not that it wasn't impactful or important, but it's not legally significant. Because what you notice about the defense is they don't cross-examine much, if at all. When they cross-examine, it's not hard-hitting punches. Yeah, they object to some evidence on some legitimate grounds, and some stuff gets kept out. But by and large, they're not doing much to interfere with the prosecution's presentation of what took place in the supermarket. We're about to see the real war, and that will be when the prosecution puts on its mental health experts. That if the defense has a chance here to do something that will cause doubt in at least one juror's minds, or maybe even cause doubt in all 12 about sanity, it's going to be when these mental health experts hit. And remember from the opening statements, we know this. Defense could not find a single mental health professional to review their client for sanity and say, that dude's insane. That's huge.
George Brauchler, candidate for Judicial District 23 to be their district attorney. George, from your perspective, how's the case going for the prosecution?
Going very well. I mean, logistically, they haven't had any hiccups. It is clearly well planned out. These witnesses are prepared, and by that, they don't show the kinds of, I don't know, it's like a dance almost. When you do direct examination, they're not stepping on each other's toes. It feels like they've heard questions before. They're comfortable with the environment. The emotion that some of these folks feel, including law enforcement officers. I mean, there was a woman on yesterday who did the forensic dump of the cell phone, and she no longer works for Boulder PD. She works for the United States Postal Inspector Service. But she had known the officer that was murdered in the King Soopers. And in talking about what she saw in the videos that she had to review, it became overwhelming for her. And this is now years later. So I think the presentation has gone very, very well. But like I said, that could all fall apart here if somehow the defense is able to do some significant damage to the expert's presentation of this one prong of insanity that they're fighting over. And that is, does this guy know right from wrong?
Now, that's interesting. George Brauchler, candidate for Judicial District 23, here with Jeff and Bill. Now, if you were looking at it from, again, just put on your prosecutor hat for just a little bit. I know how odd that is for you. Looking at how you approach the mental health experts, what are some of the pitfalls you're trying to avoid? The idea of, if you're telling your line in football to block a certain way based on this is how we're going to run, there are going to be a couple of potential leaks as far as what can possibly happen. So what I'm looking at is the prosecution going forward. How can they put together the best possible case so that the defense can't find those one or two openings to blitz to make the case that the shooter didn't fundamentally know right from wrong at that time? How do you go about doing that?
It's not really dissimilar to probably what Jeff did in politics before he became a radio guy. And that is, you do opposition research on your own candidate. You know what I mean? Like, you go out there and you try to find if there's something they've said or done in the past, in their credentials, their background, it doesn't matter if it was intentional or otherwise, that could damage their credibility. You got to sniff that out up front and figure out a way to talk about it with the jury before the defense does. Then on the substantive piece, you can identify, like right now, Mike Doherty, who, by the way, I should say, based on our first segment together, that's a dude that had one of the highest profile cases in the land. You never saw him rush to the media to talk about the substance of the case. And he had it for years. That's proof that this is done all the time. But Mike Doherty can see that one of the things that the defense is going to hit on is, here's a guy standing in the supermarket, pushing a cart, an old man, who this guy has the ability to kill 3 separate times and never does. And a person that makes that decision is crazy. Well, Mike Doherty's he sees that. When he talks to the mental health experts from the state hospital, he's going to ask them about that. And if I'm him, I ask it in exactly the way the defense would. I'd say, tell me why. Here's a guy he doesn't shoot. Why isn't that proof that this guy doesn't know right from wrong, that what he's done is the product of insanity and blah, 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 blah. And hopefully they've been prepared, by the way, for that question. And then they give an answer. You are going to try to steal as much thunder from the defense as possible. If the defense can ever surprise you by getting something out of one of your witnesses you didn't anticipate, they're doing a good job. And that's when the jury starts to pay more attention. But if you get it all out in front of them, and then the defense shows up and all they're doing is trotting over the same ground, it just doesn't have an impact.
George Brauchler, candidate for Judicial District 23's district attorney. Want to pivot here real quick with regards to Aurora and the TDA gang, the Venezuelan gang that's been taking over some of these apartment complexes. Greg Lopez gave a fire speech on the floor of the House of Representatives yesterday. He said this thing is not going to settle down until Aurora and Colorado gets those TDA gang members out of the country, back down to Venezuela. Is that your sense too?
Yeah, yes, but how are we going to do that? right? I mean, look, we have set up a system where local law enforcement can't communicate with immigration.
Yep.
That's what the state law is. How are we going to do that even if we arrest them? At the front end, we've said, if you say you're Venezuelan, we'll accept you and give you this CBP1 or whatever it is form to allow you into the country. Because they can't prove whether they're Venezuelan or not. Venezuela won't share with us their criminal histories. So we've created an environment wherein we're begging these guys to come here. And then once we're here, we've created an environment where it's almost impossible to get them out. What is interesting and sad to me is the slow trickle of information that tends to lean more towards the Danielle Jurinsky view of what had taken place than the initial pushback by either the Kyle Clarks or the Jason Crows or the others, right? Like, it feels like every day there's another release. Well, we'd actually arrested a bunch of guys we think are Venezuelan gang members. We're not 100%, but we think so. It's just hard to imagine where we'll be a month from now. But the defense by the people that created these policies and want to keep them in place is, it's not so bad. I mean, that's their defense. Not that it's not bad. It's not so bad. It's a couple apartment complexes. It's not the whole city. Really? Is that where we're at as a city? It's just an apartment complex. Maybe it's two, but it's not real bad. That's crazy.
And George Brauchler, you're a gift. We're just out of time.
That's wonderful.
Thank you so much. His website, georgebrauchler.com. georgebrauchler.com. You can get involved with the work that he's doing. George, thanks for being on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Love you, fellas. Keep it up.
That was great. Look, are you a homeowner who's considering selling your home? Let Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team use their database of over 13,700 ready buyers to get your home sold for top dollar. We hosted Gay yesterday in the studio. She was delightful. She's now on a cruise. Lucky.
I know.
Many real
She
estate
didn't even offer
agents.
to bring us.
I know. She's like, I'm doing one last thing before I head on my cruise. I'm hanging out with you guys. Many real estate agents make promises, but very few have the proof to back it up. Empower Home team has review after review from families they have served that back up what they say. They net their sellers 6.1% more money on average, netting their sellers $30,500 more in their pocket. No matter who wins the election, no matter what kind of market we are in, the Empower Home team brings both the experience and track record to help you navigate your home sale and get you top dollar. If your home doesn't sell, Gay Ribble will buy it. That's her guarantee to you. Reach out to my friends and realtors, Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team of Keller Williams today. Call 833-301-SOLD. That's 833-301-SOLD, or go to gayhasthebuyers.com. That's GAYE hasthebuyers.com. We'll continue with the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Great conversation with George Brauchler on the disbarment of Linda
amazing.
Stanley. Whoa.
Yeah, disbarred DA. Losing the law license. Having to become a talk show host or something. Yeah, man, that's huge.
That is. It's a big deal. When we come back, we're going to get into this issue, Billy. New York City Council passes slavery reparations.
I saw that.
Here we go. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS. How much is this going to cost us?
Nine a.m. on the Mile High City, in the Mile High City, on this Friday, August 13th. Oh, my God. September 13th. I'm all right checking out, man. It's Friday, TGIF.
Yes. No, okay, now we got to talk real talk here for a second.
Yeah.
Doesn't that sucks as you're getting older, the fact that time slips by so quickly?
Oh, my gosh.
That you're like, wait, it can't be when you're a little kid, when you're younger, it's about what year is it? Oh, we got to change over the year. It's difficult for the first couple. Now we forget the month.
Yep.
That's not even cool.
I'm definitely in the midlife, body changing, coming to terms with the inevitable
just you wait.
season of my life.
You have no idea the surprises and things that are going to happen in the next few years, my friend. Things where now, right now, you still wake up and you're like, this is great. Okay, I'm a little older. Soon, there's going to be a point in your life where you wake up and you're like, oh, that wasn't a car wreck. Did I fight a bear? I mean, remember how in college, fall down anywhere, pass out, get up, and you're like, I'm ready to go. Now, if you just sleep a little bit wrong, in the bed you've been sleeping in for years, you wake up and things hurt, or you're like, this is great. Okay. Also, the unexpected cramps in stupid places. Yeah. The other day, I have some things I'm working in dinner, and it's kind of a long process. It takes me about 2 hours to put this thing together. You got to do some sauces and some things, and I'm sitting there and I get a foot cramp. Yeah, bottom of my foot starts cramping. What have I done? I have stood in the kitchen and walked back and forth the several steps to the fridge. That's what I've done, and somehow I cramp. Yeah, getting old sucks. It's not in the brochure.
So somebody the other day was saying that 40s you feel older, but when you get to your 50s, you start to feel a little bit younger again.
That person was high.
Well, you lucky listeners have tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show, 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, and center. It's a beautiful day in the greatest country in history, and we're gearing up for a whole final hour of engaging discussions, critical analysis, but most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab a cup of coffee, Denver, and let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Coming up after the news and comment with Blake Olson, New York City Council passes slavery reparations legislation to yield material solutions from U.S. history. Yeah, if you don't know what that means, neither do I. But New York City will soon be the largest city in the United States to enact reparations. Council members Crystal Hudson and Farah Louise sponsored a pair of bills to establish a Truth, Healing, and Reconciliation Commission.
I need that on a business card. How cool is that?
This is like classic leftist government.
Yeah.
A healing commission. I need the government to provide a healing commission.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a reparations task force. Both bills passed on Thursday and will be effective immediately. This and more. How much are you willing to pay to bring about reparations and racial healing? We found out how much Robin DiAngelo is willing to pay.
Yes, we did.
I'm kind of giving a spoiler to the new movie Am I Racist that came out, where she paid a black man $37 from her own wallet.
Yeah. Now here's the thing. You got to check out the conversation. We had the director of the brand new movie that's dropping today, Am I Racist? Friend of the show, good friend of Jeff's. I just met him for the first time today, but dude hung out with us for the entire hour and talked about this amazing movie that comes out. The idea is, are you a racist? How would you know? They go in with Matt Walsh and poke fun at the DEI industry and peel back the curtain on what an internal scam it is. We're not saying that diversity and equity and inclusion is a bad thing universally. That's okay. But when it is implemented in the way that the liberals wanted to, when it was the focus on that is the major decision, when everything in your life has to be filtered in through what are you doing to deal with your inherent racism, then we get into serious problems. And Matt Walsh did a great job poking into it. You guys got to go see that movie. We've got the link
this weekend
on there. Yes, you've got to go out there and see Am I Racist? Listen, they go to a dinner party where white people pay good money to then be told how racist they are. That's how crazy this stuff got. And they shine a light on it. So don't miss the conversation at 7 o'clock and don't miss that movie. See I Am a Racist with your friends this weekend. You'll have a great time. Lots of laughs and lots of discussion with your liberal friends. Lots of discussion.
That's great, Bill. All right, let's get to news and comment with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Good morning. Can't wait. We've got a birthday this weekend, so it's going to be a busy weekend. I hope I can see that movie soon, no doubt. 64 and sunny in Denver, expecting a high of 83 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story.
The first words out of that fighter's mouth is, I want a rematch. I want a rematch.
Former President Trump says there won't be another debate with Kamala Khan because she went to the canvas.
And that's what she said. I want a rematch, which means that she was like a prize fighter that lost a fight. We had two debates, though. I had a debate with crooked Joe Biden, right? And I had another debate with her. She was a no-show at the Fox debate. You know, Fox invited her. She was a no-show. She didn't show up and refused also to do NBC and CBS. She went over to ABC, which in my opinion has taken a big hit because these two people were bad news. So because we've done two debates and because they were successful, there will be no third debate.
Trump holds a news conference today in California. Harris is in Pennsylvania. Bernie Sanders continues to tell the truth recently.
The economy today is an economy where working class people are struggling. That is absolutely true.
They could use that as a Trump commercial. How about the people? CBS's Major Garrett at a coffee shop in Michigan.
For this election, would you say your mind is made up?
Yes.
And that is?
Trump.
Okay. Are you a previous Trump supporter?
The first year he won in 2016, I was not.
Did you vote for Hillary?
I did vote for Hillary.
Okay.
I cried when she did not win.
Okay. Then what happened?
And then I just felt like he did a good job. I like the fact that he was not a politician.
You believe you were better off 4 years ago? Oh, absolutely.
Interesting. Colorado's Greg Lopez representing CD4 in D.C., making the most of his short time in the swamp. Get after it, Greg.
Tren de Aragua, a transnational criminal gang started in Venezuela prison, has invaded multiple apartment communities with all the ferocity of wild dogs. TDA extorts residents, intimidates witnesses, and has received clearance from their leadership to shoot cops. The Biden-Harris administration encourages this with a senseless border policy that refuses to prioritize America's safety. If we don't wake up, the next knock on the door will be for us. Thank you, and I yield back.
Well, no proof of Haitian immigrants eating dogs and cats in Springfield, Ohio, but it's still early. They did receive a bomb threat Thursday at the city building. Huge issues there as 20,000 Haitians were placed in the town with a population of 58,000.
Sparks were flying everywhere. It was definitely kind of a scary scene, sort of, you didn't quite know what was going to happen next because you could tell certainly he was definitely trying to get away from the police.
Casey Malone's an assistant track coach at CU. He was a witness to a dangerous situation in Boulder. There were several hit and run crashes involving a pickup near Foothills and Arapahoe last night. A man driving a blue truck was involved in at least two before hitting several trees and signs, and then officers tried to stop the driver, but then he got away before ramming the gate to drive on to Folsom Field at the University of Colorado. That's where the visiting team runs onto the football field. After negotiating with police, Carl Haglund got out of his truck and surrendered to police. He faces numerous charges, and he stopped at the 40-yard line. The great George Brauchler on with the fellas last hour to talk about the historic disbarment of DA Linda Stanley following her handling in the Barry Morphew case. But Brauchler says, hey, there was a great question that was sent to him on X on Thursday.
Now, somebody had asked me on social media as I was jibber-jabbering about this, they're like, well, does she have to leave? She's elected. So if she's disbarred, does that mean she's not the DA anymore? What a great question, right? She had to be DA, she had to be an attorney, and had to have been in practice for 5 years in order to be elected. But if they take that away, does that function by law to just kick her out of the office? And who has the authority to say that? There's no way they're going to do a recall. Now, my hope would be that she would do the right thing and step down rather than put the system through some sort of a what now sort of approach to this. But, the governor may be in a position to appoint Jeff Lindsay, who's the only guy on the ballot down there in the 11th, to be DA a little bit early.
She has 14 days to appeal. Millions of people have lost trust in the FBI and now the Secret Service. Missouri's Josh Hawley says it is a mess. It needs to be fixed after what happened in the assassination attempt on Trump.
I think Matt had more fun making.
That was the wrong one. Here's Hawley.
I'm told by people who are close to and have knowledge of the Secret Service's own internal investigation that the Department of Homeland Security is leaning on the Secret Service not to comply with document requests to Congress. This is really getting to be outrageous. The American people need the truth here.
No doubt. And the director of Am I a Racist with Matt Walsh in the studio, of course, with Jeff and Bill this morning. Justin Folk was outstanding
in this movie than anybody else because he got to inhabit a character that is actually like the polar opposite of who he actually is. Play the yin and the yang. And he got to be somebody, the totally polar opposite of who he is in real life. Now, the reason he was good at doing that is he's so well read. He's so smart, but he knows the other side's arguments. He knows.
Make sure you see the movie this weekend. College football tomorrow. Oh, it's a biggie. See you at CSU in Fort Collins. 61 in Arvada, 62 in Greenwood Village, 64 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue. TGIF. Blake Olson News Talk 710 KNUS.
Your KNUS forecast for the Denver metro area is a milder one today thanks to a cold front that pushed through the area overnight. A weak frontal system, highs today, closer to average, low to mid-80s. Sunny to mostly sunny. It'll be cool tonight, low 50s. Trending warmer for the weekend and early next week. High temperatures back to the upper 80s to near 90 degrees, lows mid-50s. A couple of showers and thunderstorms.
Weather sponsored by branchplanning.com. Secure your future retirement with a reliable income stream. Annuities can provide guaranteed payments, giving you peace of mind. Get your complimentary review at branchplanning.com or call 303-219-0088. I'm meteorologist Mark Huer in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. New York City taking on the tough issues. New York City will soon be the largest city in the United States to enact a reparations program. Crime problems, drug dealing problems, human trafficking problems, illegal immigrant problems. We're going to go back and fight the battles from 1865. New York City will be soon the largest city in the United States to enact reparations. What does that mean? Well, it starts with the creation of the Truth, Healing, and Reconciliation Commission and a reparations task force. Both bills passed on Thursday and are effective immediately. But not all city council members are excited about this. In fact, 8 of them have said they'll just move before they pay for this. Is it right to make people that were never slave owners pay money to people that were never slaves? This was a big point in the movie Am I Racist? And I'm giving a little bit of a away here, but it's just that is how amazing it is. Matt Walsh gets Robin DiAngelo and essentially guilt trips her, puts her into a corner that she needs to pay reparations herself. What's stopping her?
And Robin DiAngelo is?
Yeah, the author of White Fragility.
Which is like the
She's
seminal
like
work
the queen
on DEI.
The queen of DEI.
Yep. If you had to say, okay, Jeff, back up just a little bit in case lightning strikes. It is the DEI Bible. Just in case. I just wanted to clear you out because I'd be the one to be hitting the lightning on that one. Yes,
Yep.
That's what it is.
And so Matt Walsh basically says, I've got a black friend here. Why don't we apologize to him for racism? So Robin DiAngelo apologizes. And then he goes, well, why don't we take it one step further? Why don't we pay reparations?
Oh, my goodness.
And Robin goes, well, that's kind of more a systemic thing. So it should be done at the government level. And he goes, well, what's going to stop you from doing this personally? Do you always wait for the government? Do you wait for systems? You can bring about healing today.
So smart.
And she goes and opens her wallet and pays reparations, $37.
And I love it's 37. You're like, that's it.
That's what she had in her wallet.
Out of everything she said in the book, $37. Again, back in the day, I didn't carry a checkbook, nothing. I can't do the swipe of the square with the card and the thing in the phone. And no, we got other ways we can do, payment. I'm tapping and swiping my card all the time. That's it up? No, well.
So New York City Council's taken it on. The press release detailed how the commission would establish facts about slavery in New York City and its ongoing legacies, protect and acknowledge affected persons and communities, and recommend changes for government and institutions to prevent the perpetuation and recurrence of injustices from the legacy of slavery. New York City. There's a lot of black people in New York City. I mean, so much so that in a democracy, they have pretty good control over the government. So how is the government that is well represented by people of a particular race still implementing and perpetuating recurrences of injustices from the legacy of slavery? That's what I don't understand. It's not like it's a city dominated by white leadership, maybe black people, but all black people, citizens, but all of a sudden it's got white people that are in charge of it, and it's perpetuating recurrences of injustices from the legacy of slavery. I was like, yo, you're in control of the government.
Here's the thing for me is that New York, well, not just the state, but the city. New York City is probably one of the top 2 multiracial cities that we have in the U.S. Yeah.
Yes.
As far as a society that has been very integrated. For me, this is, and I've used this on some conservative movements at times, and I think it's fair, absolutely fair critique on this one. This is virtue signaling. They're wanting to come forward and say, look how good we are. We care so much. This is nothing more than virtue signaling, because I guarantee that this commission, the stuff they come back with are going to be lofty ideas and scant proposals. There's going to be no hard movement that can take place. There's going to be not a single thing they're going to say, well, we need to do X, we need to change this system. It's all going to be about feelings. We should examine how we do this. We should take a look at. It's going to be all of these things, which again are just going to be more government jobs. That's all it's going to be.
You have a multicultural city that elects multicultural people. So you have black people, you have Hispanic people, you got white people. They're all over, okay? Lots of different races. They're going to identify racist, anti-black policies. Why don't you just change the policies? Why? At the foundation of our city's institutions, and it will yield material solutions, money, that's what that means, to address these foundational cracks. Lewis said the legislation is a crucial step towards justice and equality. All right, let's go to the phone lines. Gary, Denver, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show. News Talk 710 KNUS. How much money are you willing to pay for reparations?
Well, Jeff and Billy, I think it's properly should be a decision by the states. And here's my logic. The states that would, God forbid, pass something like that would probably be states where there's a large African American population. And so if they decided in that state that they were going to increase taxes to provide reparations, then the African American taxpayers in that state will probably be paying the extra tax. So I think if it was handled that way, it'd be less onerous. But I wanted to ask you and Billy about another income redistribution plan that Trump has in mind. As you both know, he's pandering and trying to buy votes. First, he said no tax on tips. Then he said no tax on Social Security. And yesterday he said no tax on overtime, all of which I disagree with. I think everyone should pay tax on the income they earned. And I was going to ask you and Billy on those 3 provisions that Trump, a Republican, is proposing is something you would support.
I love it. I love it. I don't want any money at all going to the government that's not absolutely necessary to fulfill the constitutional requirements of the government to operate. So I don't understand why we tax income. Why do we tax income?
Well, it's to support the critical, defense. And, I agree with you. It's bloated, but given that we are, that's not going to change anytime soon. I don't like paying taxes either, and I work for the IRS. But I don't agree with picking winners and losers. So, like I said, I would love it if nobody paid taxes, including me. But I don't think it's right to pick those 3 income streams and give them a break, whereas you and I need to. It's basically income redistribution.
Yeah, I'm against the. I'm for the no taxes on tips. The other ones I think are just kind of silly. I understand the no tax on overtime, but what you're going to find then is that companies will stop awarding overtime monetarily, and what they'll do is they'll wrap it into some salary ideas. It's like I forget the investment bank, just in the last 72 hours came out and said the junior bankers now are prevented for working more than 80 hours a week. Not a 40-hour work week. An 80-hour week is where they drew the line. So that's what you'll see happen. You'll see them rolling into that.
But Billy, I don't follow your logic, because if I'm working overtime at Amazon, Amazon wouldn't gain anything by cutting back on my overtime, because the only thing is that I'm not paying income taxes. It has no impact on Amazon.
But it would still be involved in their payroll taxes. As far as
he's talking about income taxes, not payroll taxes.
Gary, I'm pretty sure it would still, though. But if that is compensation, if they're paying it, I understand the individual wouldn't be paying overtime, but you still would have to pay the payroll tax on the overtime. You still pay the company.
Would you support a flat tax, Gary?
Yes.
So I think that's the only. You have two options. I think you either piecemeal it and you lower taxes wherever you possibly can, or you go to a flat tax.
But on Billy's point, Billy, what I'm saying is Trump is proposing they don't pay income tax when they file their 1040, but the payroll tax, which is basically your Social Security and Medicare, that would still, the employee and the employer would still pay that. So it has no impact on the company whether or not they pay income tax. The individual pays income tax.
Gary, I appreciate the call. Thanks so much. And
I'm curious how we'd read his revenue. How do we pay for
we
our
have
defense
IRS
budget?
Agents listening to us.
I know, but how would we pay for our defense budget and the other things if we didn't have the revenue through taxes? Because both you and Gary said you don't want to pay any income tax. I'm curious how then we would derive any revenue.
The beast.
I know, but
starve the beast.
That's great. That's great.
I don't know. It's Friday afternoon.
But the issue being, then, does that mean that we just let our military devolve because we have no money for them? Does that mean we let our bridges and roads
If we
devolve?
can build back up from the bottom up and only what's necessary, I think it'd be a good exercise for our country.
What's the revenue source? That's the question I have.
Right.
And that's the issue.
Figure it out.
With people saying, no income tax. Well, what's the revenue source then? That's the problem. We have to derive revenue for the government some way.
We get from Nancy Pelosi's tax stock trading.
That's what we needed. There we go. Now what we need to do is we need to tax these stock trades of
Only
members of Congress.
Only Nancy Pelosi.
No, only all members of Congress. We tax all their stock trades by 50%, and that
to pay for our government.
Yeah.
By the way, did you see Greg Lopez ran a bill that the ballot that you would get would have listed the total national debt at the top of it?
It's very smart. It's a good idea.
I know if it makes some decisions. Let's go to Jack, Wyoming. Jack, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show. News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Jack.
Yeah, I'm a native New Yorker myself, but this idea that the liberals in New York have decided they want to pay reparations for slavery, I just want to compare that to Argentina. I spent 2 months down there, and I traveled 7,000 miles on the roads down there, and they're not going to be paying reparations. And Buenos Aires is actually at least 100, maybe 200 years older a city than New York City is, if you know your history. But you know what?
And actually, they had a lot more slaves that went to Brazil than even America.
That's where they went, Brazil. They went to Brazil, but Argentina never allowed black people in their country, ever. I drove 7,000 miles down there in 2 months and never saw a black face.
Really?
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. Think about that. And then look at who they've got running their country now and how they totally turned around on socialism. And I'll tell you something, if the Democrats take this election, me and all my money are going to Argentina.
You can't, Jack. You're right ahead. That's where
I kind of have the same question that Donald Trump had to Kamala Harris. Like, you're in power. Do it. If there are systemic racist policies, change them. Do we have to go pay and tax people in order to redistribute wealth to do that?
The problem is that you couldn't have a bigger flyweight than Kamala Harris. You couldn't have a bigger flyweight. But the reason why it's doable, it's because half of this country, the Democrats, have been taken over by the Communist Party, and any of them have a brain. And as long as that's in place, anything is possible.
So, Jack, you think communists are in favor of reparations?
are in favor of what?
You think communists are in favor of reparations?
I think it's almost like a form of communist thinking.
Of course they are. Absolutely.
That's been a thing. Yeah, Putin's so worried about that. People that have been exploited inside of Russia and giving reparations to them. That's same thing inside of China. We've seen that they're worried about populations that have been taken advantage of, and they're paying them money. No, they're not, Jack. They're not at all. Communists are not in favor of reparations.
Back in the Roman Empire, the East with the Byzantines, only 40% of the citizens in that empire and the Byzantines were what they called freeborn. Freeborn means that they had natural citizenship and rights and all of the same rights. The rest of the people were indentured. They were slaves. And if you're an Italian, which I am, then I might be entitled to reparations because they had slavery then.
Yeah, but that's not the
And like I
communists.
said-
You're avoiding the question. That's okay.
Jack, thanks for the call. Well, I'll answer it this way, Bill. The first page of the Communist Manifesto is all of history is oppressor versus oppressed. It seems to be the underlying philosophy of reparations is that you have oppressors versus oppressed, and then you have the redistribution of wealth.
Yeah.
It's also taking place.
Oh
So
yeah, but show me where they've implemented that reparations plan. That's the issue. And the
yeah,
thing-
no,
and
in
that's the
China
issue.
and Russia, no, they're not implementing.
And that was the issue that I had
reparations
with Jack is the idea that he's like, well, they're going to do this because they're communists. No, they're not. And the issue is he's just coming to the conclusion of communism and using that as another thing. And he was talking about Argentina not letting any black people and things they did there. Yes. Also, the thing he left out of the conversation there was remember which country welcomed the Nazis after World War II? That was Argentina. So surprise, didn't have any black people there. Really? So shocked about that one. So
yeah,
shocked.
I'm not sure
Yeah.
Argentina's the model. All right.
Not at all.
Are you a homeowner who's considering selling your home? Like Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team use their database of over 13,700 ready buyers to get your home ready and sold for top dollar. Many real estate agents make promises, but very few have the proof to back it up. The Empower Home team has review after review for families they have served that back up what they say. They net their sellers 6.1% more money on average, netting their sellers $30,500 more in their pocket. Give Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team a call today at 833-301-SOLD or go to gayhasthebuyers.com. That's 833-301-SOLD or go to gayhasthebuyers.com. Look, if you're like me, you know that living in Colorado means dealing with unpredictable weather, hail, snow, heavy winds, you name it. We got it. That's why you need a roofing company you can trust, and that's Colorado's Best Roofing. They're local, family-owned, and have served the Denver area for over 12 years. They understand our unique climate and know how to build a roof that lasts. Whether you need a repair after a storm or a whole new roof, Colorado's Best Roofing has got you covered. And here's what I really love. They offer a free, no-obligation inspection. They'll come out, take a look, and give you an honest assessment. No pressure, no gimmicks, just straight talk from the pros. Plus, they work with your insurance company to make sure you get the coverage you deserve. So don't wait until the next big storm hits. Give Colorado's Best Roofing a call today at 303-797-7663 or visit them at roofingcolorado.com. That's 303-797-7663 or roofingcolorado.com. Trust the best. Colorado's Best Roofing. We had Steve earlier in the week on the show, and that is a great guy.
Yeah, he's a great
building
guy.
a good company here in Colorado, providing quality services.
And employing people here in Colorado, building a business in Colorado because he wants to take care of you. And that's the best part about it. This is a guy that's going to manage your conversation with the insurance company. But more importantly, he is going to manage the problems you're having with your roof. He's going to be 110% honest with you. He's going to take care of it and make sure it's done right. For him, it's not about quantity. It's about quality. You want someone you can trust. You want to make sure your roof is handled properly. Colorado's Best Roofing. They'll handle you. They'll take care of you.
All right, we'll continue. Up next, Jeff Hildebrandt's got some little Western poetry for us. Looking forward to this. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. That's right. This weekend, you got John Caldera and Pete Boyles. It's a great lineup, followed by Mike Boyle, the restaurant show.
Yeah.
So.
Still live local radio happening all weekend here, which is really nice. It's unusual. Not everybody else does it like we do.
Speaking of things that are unusual.
Yeah, we have got rhyme time with Jeff Hildebrandt. He is the poet laureate of the Jeff and Bill Show.
There you go.
Now, Jeff has spent a long radio career and also spent time behind the camera working with the Western Channel. And he does something incredible where he combines his love of the Western values, life, and culture with his faith. And he's got something special on his heart. He's got something special in his mind. And it's unlike anything else that happens here in Denver radio. And you know how we roll. That's the kind of things that we do. And so Jeff is going to be joining us every Friday in the studio with a brand new creation. We'll also hook you up with the links to some of his books so you can hand them out to friends and family over the Christmas season. We'll tell you how to get a hold of those on Amazon. They are still available. And today, welcome into the studio, Jeff Hildebrandt.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
It's, what's the word? Oh, a pleasure to be here. It's...
Now, this
it's funny when a poet has to search for that word.
Yes. Now, tell us the story about this week's poem because you have a little bit of inspiration as well.
Okay. This is, I actually have two. If that's all right, I have two.
Okay. Yes.
Please.
I have to because I just have to. Yesterday, I heard your discussion with Heidi Ganahl. I thought it was very interesting. And for those of you who are listening, if you didn't hear it, let me remind you a little bit.
Jeff, I didn't run for governor just to run for governor. I ran as part of a bigger effort to take back our state and bring us back to the values that built Colorado into such an incredible place. The rugged individualism, the wild, wild west, the new frontier. That's what Colorado is.
All right. So that inspired this. What makes our state different, what makes us unique, are the virtues and values and concern for the weak. On KNUS, Heidi Ganahl said it best, the rugged individualism, the wild, wild west. She describes Colorado as the new frontier. And on the Jeff and Bill Show, she made it quite clear there are things that must change if we want to be certain there are no puppeteers in back of the curtain. If you want to learn more, what you need to do, check the Jeff and Bill podcast because it's here for you.
Aw, thank you. That's amazing.
Heidi's going to love that.
That is fantastic.
She is really going to love it.
That is really cool.
I don't think men do enough poetry for the ladies these days.
No, and you know how.
But like literally,
so
my brain can't even start to comprehend what he just put together.
And here's the problem that when I start
Wait a
thinking,
minute. Wait a minute.
Okay, go ahead.
I mean, I'm
you
sitting
can't
there-
understand what I said.
I do, but I'm sitting there the whole time going, like, could I even like put words down the same way he does? Like, it's such a talent that exists outside of my capabilities.
Yeah.
That I almost have to just sit back and enjoy it.
Oh, it's fantastic. And the thing is, the problem that I have is that the only poetry that I could ever work with or be any good with would start with like, there once was a man from Nantucket. That's about the best I can do. Other than that, I got nothing.
Jeff, do you write poetry for your spouse?
For my spouse?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every time he does something wrong. Oh, that's fantastic.
Does she like it?
Yeah.
Does she like it?
Yeah.
She listens.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's.
Now,
I know
let's
Nancy
move
Reagan.
along.
I know Nancy Reagan really liked those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, also, Jeff, I want to ask you about the Western values. Now, you, with all your experience, and I mean, you have gone not only across the country at a whole bunch of Western festivals to get involved in the Western culture. You have even gone to China wearing your cowboy hat, representing Western culture. So what does Western culture mean to you, Western culture and values?
Well, that was a question that you asked, Jeff, last week about Western values. And I thought about it and I mentioned it to my wife. And I said, I was dumbfounded. And she said, what's new? And then we went on and she reminded me of this that I had written in the past. And it just seemed to fit when you're talking about Western values. A cowboy's code of conduct is a guide to right and wrong when dealing with the world today, so we all get along. If it isn't yours, don't take it. If it isn't true, don't say it. If it isn't right, don't do it. But there's a lot more to it. Don't take unfair advantage. Don't betray a trust. Always be respectful and fight only when you must. Always tell it like it is. Be gentle, kind, and fair. Be helpful when you're needed. And show others that you care. Be brave, but never careless. Be neat and always clean. Protect the weak and helpless when others treat them mean. A cowboy's code of conduct, a guide, a way of life. The lessons for the rest of us, less taking and more giving. It's sort of like the code of conduct we learned as a kid, 10 rules of interaction that governed all we did, from knowing who created us and all that we hold dear, to how we serve and honor him. It's also made real clear that we're to treat each others with honesty and grace, be happy with the things we have, and not get in the chase for temporary treasures that someone else enjoys. Contentment can't be measured by more money or more toys. It's when you see a sunrise, taste the air after a rain, and know how much God loves you that eases your soul's pain. It's a godly code of conduct for how the world should live. We'd get along much better with less taking and more give.
Wow.
Isn't it amazing how that like hits a different part of your brain and heart?
Oh, it does. It does. And there's so many things inside of there. And that's the beauty inside of poetry is it connects on an emotional level that other words don't. And
that a TikTok video doesn't.
Oh yeah. And it peels back layers and emotions and thoughts and combines them in a way that is truly unique. And we are blessed to have such a special part of the show joining us now. It's Jeff Hildebrandt. This is fantastic. That was amazing.
I didn't realize there was all that hidden stuff in poetry.
There is, my friend. The thing is, because you're writing it, and it's as you talked about it last week. It's when literally the Spirit moves you that this is something that is a gift. This is something that God has blessed you with, and you get an idea, and it just flows. You talked about it last week. How these aren't necessarily your words. You're just the interpreter for the feeling that God places on your heart and your soul. It's incredibly special. It's a gift that you are sharing with both us and also our listeners. And I thank you deeply for it. It's amazing.
Jeff, thanks so much.
My pleasure.
And man, what a way to wrap a wild week.
Yeah. This is going to be great. This is
and
how
to
we're going to
prepare
wrap up
for
these
the
weeks.
weekends too.
Yeah.
And I've been adding Jeff's poetry to a little bit of video and putting them on social media. So you can download them there over at x.com/Jeff Hunt or on Instagram as well. And man.
We're also going to have the
communicates
MP3s.
truth.
Yeah, and the MP3s are going to be on our podcast. So go ahead and find them there and hook them up. And this is what really, really stinks, having Jeff Hildebrandt, the poet laureate of the Jeff and Bill Show, doing this, is now I have to do a live read. I have to follow that with my own commercial. Do you understand the pressure that is on this dude behind the mic right now? But I'm going to try. Okay, deep breath. All right. Now, I want to talk to you about some of the pain you've been living in, some of the pain that you've been dealing with. I want you to talk to my friends at Balance Well Space. Here's the reason why. I thought getting older, it's just one of those things where you just start having things that ache and things that hurt, and then you stop doing things you used to love. You're not going on those hikes. You're not hanging out with friends as much. You're not playing with the kids or grandkids in the front yard. And more than that, you get to a point where you're not even going up and down steps you used to. You're changing how you live your life based on the pain. It doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be that way for you if you talk to my friends at Balance Well Space. Brand new set of doctors here in town. New offices in Lowry, right across from Hangar 2. You can find them at balancewellspace.com. Plenty of parking. It's easy to find. Check them out, balancewellspace.com. And this is why you want to talk to them. 2 words, integrative medicine. What they do is they have a whole series of different modalities. That's a fancy word for treatments. Well, see, I'm getting all fancy with you. They can do chiropractic care. They can do neuropathy, physical rehabilitation, wave therapy, regenerative care, trigger point injections, and so much more, plus some amazing cutting edge therapies as well. And the reason is They have one office that is going to take care of everything in one visit. That's what makes them different. You're not driving all over town to several different appointments. I'm not doubting that the care you're getting right now is solid. I'm just saying you can do it a better way. And the better way is Balance Well Space, because not only do they create a custom pain plan for you, but they also reevaluate your progress regularly. That's what makes them so different than what you're experiencing right now, because your current set of doctors never get together and have a discussion about you and your progress and reevaluate it and make sure they change up what's going on to get you living your best life. Talk to my friends at Balance Well Space, balancewellspace.com. You'll sit down with them. They poke, they prod, they take the pictures, and then after a custom pain plan, they go to work. The changes in my life have been absolutely incredible. I am regenerating the meniscus in my left knee that's been torn for years. I've got some separation in 2 vertebrae in my back that have been fusing together. We're now doing some great stuff with the disc back there, and they're killing off they're destroying all of the scar tissue that I've got in my right shoulder. I want them to make the same difference in your life they're currently making in mine, but they can't if you don't talk to them. BalanceWellSpace.com. BalanceWellSpace.com. Talk to the team that I trust. And do me a favor, tell me you heard about them here on Jeff and Bill.
Great to hear that, Bill. All right, we'll continue. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Well, it's been an absolutely fantastic week on the Jeff and Bill shows. We covered the debates, the new movies coming out, Reagan, Am I Racist? Today we hosted the director of Am I Racist, Justin Folk. That's Matt Walsh's new film. It's in theaters this weekend. Go check it out. It's directed by one of Colorado's own.
Yeah, and if you want a little joy in your life, I know the week has been hard. Now it is time to celebrate. This is a movie that is going to make you laugh, make you think, and give you a ton of ammunition against all your liberal friends that are going to argue with you about DEI. Take a look at this. It is a wonderful time. You're going to walk out of there feeling so inspired by just how silly that industry was and how well Matt Walsh and Justin Folk expose it. So check it out. I Am Racist. Do us a solid. Say hi, and help them out because it's out of Colorado. This is a Colorado-born movie, people. We got to help out the people that are here doing the good work.
George Brauchler joined us to tell us why DA Linda Stanley was disbarred, and New York City soon be the largest city in the United States to enact a reparations program. A whole lot of news and commentary we covered. If you missed any of it, go to 710KNUS to download the podcast. Billy and I head into TAPS tomorrow night.
So excited.
So maybe we'll see you there.
Hopefully.
You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS. Have some fun this weekend.